we escaped the mansion, the castle. I keep saying mansion. We escaped the castle and we found ourselves on a farm. And on the farm, we got adopted into this family. Not necessarily adopted, but we were kind of like, hey, you must help us because you promised to help us. And the family's like, okay, I guess we'll take care of you. And the little girl that found us, Fleur, we get very close to her. She helps us around. We're kind of useless. Kiona is trying really hard to be a farmer, but she's struggling. She's a princess, you know, she's not used to this, but she tries. And Fleur, like, really, really goes out of her way to help her. She's like sticking up for her with her parents. She's like, you know, she's really trying, like, let her, like, give her a pass. And Kiona kind of explains very roughly that she's running away from her dad because her dad, like, wants to marry her. And Fleur's like, oh my god, yikes. However, little do we know, Fleur hates nobles. And her family hates nobles. Kiona doesn't know this. There is an implication, though. She does kind of make it a little bit clear when we see the prince, who, the prince of this new land, who Kiona immediately falls in love with. However, a lot of that quote-unquote love is more so this kind of idea that she's placed on him from the stories that she's read about princes, and also this idea that he's gonna whisk her away and save her. And so she's got a very positive impression of him, even though she doesn't really know him at all. And Fleur, on the other hand, is very dismissive of this. She's like, yeah, he's not a great guy, but she doesn't really explain that. Later on, we fast forward, now Kiona is hatching up a plan. She's like, I need to try and find a way to meet the prince on his own. And while we're doing this, they finally have a big disagreement. Fiona kind of slips in talking about the prince, and during this conversation, Fleur admits that her siblings, died because they weren't being helped by the royals, that they've had to give so much money to them, they've had to, like, work for them for free, and they get all of this for doing basically nothing but starting wars that they have to then protect them from. So she's not very happy with them. But we also find out that her dad has been injured for the last, like, couple of months, especially, like, since we had started, like, living with them, which is why Fleur has to work extra hard, because her dad can't do any of the work. And we find out the reason he's injured is because one of the squires of the lord ran into him, and he just happened to, like, dodge them. And the horse and the rider happened to get out with, like, minimal injuries or anything. But Fleur's dad got severely injured during that. And then the prince showed up, or sent, like, a messenger or something, basically saying, oh, if anything happened to that horse or the rider, you would be dead. You would be, like, paying for that for the rest of your life. And, you know, how dare you, blah, 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 you know, full on, just, like, telling them off. And during this, Kiona is just like, no, not my prince. He would never do that. Keep in mind, Kiona has never actually met him, does not know anything about him. But no, he would never do something like that. He's a good person. And it gets into the point where now Fleur isn't just talking about the prince, but she's talking about all of nobility. She just does not like nobility. And in that regard, she does not like Kiona, because Kiona is a princess and has been reaping the rewards of the peasants, much like the prince has. You know, in an ignorant way, but in that way regardless. And now she's fully supportive of this. Kiona takes a full heel turn. She gets, like, the whole evil smirk and everything. Girly is messy. And we go and, like, we meet the prince. We get him to fall in love with us. And it's all going great. We have a plan. We're gonna get married to him. But Fleur finds out that we are meeting the prince, and she finds out that we are a princess. And not only are we a princess, but we have been telling him a very elaborated story on how we are now living here, and lying about a couple of things, including that this peasant family, is not taking care of her and is making her do all of these tasks and things that she is not doing. You know, they're not making Kiona do all of that stuff. So making them out to be like these villains that they're not, which is really, you know, not great, Kiona, not great. So they hatch a plan. The parents are like, what should we do with her? And Fleur's like, let's not do anything. Let's give her some time to come out with this herself. You know, I still believe that she'll be honest with us about all of this. I think she's just like, I think I was really harsh with her, and I think she just doesn't want to tell me. She thinks I'll get mad. So let's just be, you know, nice to her and like see if she'll tell us. And so they're really nice to her for the next couple of like weeks and leading up to the wedding. And Kiona does not tell them. In Kiona's head, she's like, she doesn't like them, but she wants to reward them. So she's like, I'll just give them some gold once I'm married. That's what she's thinking. Like, you know, keep them afloat and so that they'll live. She also doesn't know that the harvest results are terrible and they're going through a lot of grief and stress over that. So this extra mouth that they have to feed, who's like barely helping them, is now adding huge stress to them. And it's like, you know, you could have just told them. You could have just told them and things would be better. But anyway, too late. We get to the wedding day. Kiona's so happy. She invites him to the wedding. She's like, let's go and see this like new bride, this mysterious new bride that no one knows about. And on that day, Fleur captures her with her mom, takes the dress, and is like, Fleur's gonna dress up as a bride and, you know, become the bride and marry the prince so that we can, you know, support our family. Because you were clearly not gonna do that. And Kiona's like, no, wait, I was gonna give you money and take care of you. And they're like, how can we believe you when you've been lying to us for so long? And then they toss her in the ocean and she drowns. But it's fine because we summoned the Great Fairy and the Great Fairy helps us and turns back in time. And now we're like, wow, that was months of my life that we've just gone back on and restarting all the way from that night where we were trying to escape the castle. And now we follow the same path. Kiona now realizing that she could have been more honest with them. It's still a fucked up thing to do to kill her, but still a bit of a crazy move there. But Kiona's kind of like very reflective on this. Like, I should have been more honest with them. Maybe I could be more honest now. I guess she can. I guess she can just infinitely go back. The only issue is that she can always go back to that point in the palace where it's like the worst moment of her life. So it's like there's very few options from there. As in, the main option is run away from the palace. So it's not like, you know, when you find like a nice point in your life and you're like, okay, this is my reset point and anything that happens from here, I can go back to. It's like the worst moment in her life that she keeps having to go back to. But yeah, it seems like she can do it infinitely. So, but the only issue with this time is that she has lived months of her life and she really wants to tell Nahima, but Nahima did not believe her the first time she mentioned it, and she does not think she'll believe her now. And now she's got the weight of like months and months of living with this family, getting to know them, like really loving them, and the betrayal that she felt when they killed her. And she can't tell anyone that. She can't even tell the family that. She runs into Fleur when she's running away. I think she specifically does try to go that direction. And she just sort of like passes by her, like, you know, she's just like, oh, good day to you, and then she leaves because she doesn't think she can fake that relationship from the start. You know, like, she already knows so much about Fleur and her family, she can't start over again, you know, which fair enough. She kind of brought it onto herself. Oh, for sure. Oh, for sure. The heel turn that she had was incredible. It was actually really funny. It wasn't funny, but it was kind of funny.
Unbelievable.
Oh my god.
Times are hard, world's on the brink. Don't wanna protest, don't wanna cause a sting. Just wanna escape and not have time to think.
I want to check out all the chicks. Watch them walk. Hi, E2! It's an E2 raid. We've come to give you our brain cell. Please enjoy it. E2 caught you. Thanks, E2! I was just recapping the rest of the game. Thank you for sticking around, Odie. I was just recapping the game. I guess the main recap is we are a princess who is running away from our dad who wants to marry us. It's really weird. Thank you for sticking around, Maria. Oh my god, you got latte in your name. I love it. And we have gone back in time twice because our situation has not worked out well. And now, because we can't live with the farm family anymore, since we've lived with them for months and we can't go back to that now that they've killed us and also we've messed up their life, we are now living at the castle. We have gotten very lucky. I will say this, Kiona has gotten very lucky running into people that want to help her. First, it was Fleur and her family who just like gave up a lot to take care of Kiona, considering they are like a very poor family who have a lot of work to do, and they still took time to take care of Kiona. Like, considering that, it's very much like they did actually give up a lot for Kiona. And now she's run into like this this lady in the city who Kiona was like, I just really need a job, please. And the lady's like, oh, sweetie, of course I'll take care of you. And you can work at the castle, it's fine. There's like a big celebration about to happen and they need all the hands they can get. So now we're working at the castle of the prince that we are trying to marry. I'm still iffy on the prince because it doesn't seem like he's a great guy, but it's royalty. I don't think any of them are great. However, that is Kiona's plan. Kiona wants to marry the prince, and so I will help her try and do that. It sounds like a lot. This like seventh loop. Seventh time loop? What's seventh time loop? E2 told me he will steal my hats if I didn't come on the raid.
Disney Princess Coca moment.
It is a Disney Princess Coca moment, except kind of the worst. It's like if there was a Disney Princess movie, but everything went wrong. That's an entire year. Oh my god. Brats, of course, brats, of course. Someone needs to remind me at the end of the stream to make the rest of the Dylan clips because I have so many Dylan clips ready. They will steal my hats if I didn't come in the raid. E2. E2. If I remember, that's fair enough. I don't think any of us will remember. All right, E2, you can go ahead and have a nap, get some food, do what you need to do, and everyone else, you can do that as well. I give you permission. You are allowed. Sorry, I'm entering my Disney princess arc. I give you my permission to do what you need to do. And we're gonna go ahead and start, because it's 27 minutes in the stream and I've not started the game. Okay. I will begin reading. Oh, also, this game is based on the Donkey Skin story, which is a very old and very ever-changing story. Kind of like Cinderella, very similar to Cinderella, actually. Only difference is our dad is trying to marry us, which is weird. Thank you for letting us peasants have freedom. I am nothing if not a benevolent ruler. I keep the peace, mostly because I don't want to revolt. That's happened before. Did not go well. Okay. When she reached the kitchens to drop the meat, the princess immediately understood that her benefactress had an important role in the preparation of the Lord's meal. Okay. Common chefs were rushing in every direction while asking her for instructions, and she seemed to manage her troops with an iron fist. Oh, this is the lady that took us in. Observing this peculiar movement was not unpleasant. In the end, she lost track of time, so much so that she blinked in surprise when Bertha invited her to go eat something after finally completing her work. It was a welcome offer after such a long day, but the cook had still things to show her. It did not take her long before once again dragging along her new recruit through the corridors. Oh, we finally got music. Yay! Everyone knows the Chancellor holds all the power, it's true. Come, I'll show you your housing. All the retainers are housed in a specific building. The rooms are then located depending on each person's position. Not gonna lie, you'll have one of the last ones. I am sure that I am going to feel at home nonetheless. Good. I'm going to introduce you to all the servants and show you to your bedding. We meet in the common room when the task has been finished, or to deliberate over something, so there's usually a lot of people at this hour. Translating words into actions, Berthe led the princess through another long corridor, then stormed into a room. Moments after, she felt several inquiring pairs of eyes glued to her. Of course, if you're wearing like a big donkey skin outfit. The room, of modest proportions, was barely furnished. There were some tables, some chairs, and a small fireplace to keep warm. Men and women of varying ages were sitting there, and every single one of them went quiet at the exact moment the cook opened her mouth to call for silence. Your attention, please. I'd like to introduce Donkey Skin, who's right here. Also, Kiona has chosen to go by the name Donkey Skin in this iteration of her life, and not to mention that her name is Kiona. Because Fleur used to call her Donkey Skin as a nickname. From this day forward, she's the one who's going to replace Berenger as a goose herder. She'll also serve as a multi-purpose retainer. Therefore, I'm counting on you to welcome her as it ought to be. Make sure she fits in as well as possible. That sounds so unflattering. It really does. I think Kiona took a liking to it after Fleur kept calling her that. But when she first mentioned it, I think she was definitely like, what? But she is wearing a coat of donkey skin. A unanimous ovation followed this declaration. Kiona could not help but feel confused, for she was not used to being applauded. Fortunately, Beth seized her hand and led her to the stairs located in a corner of the room. They climbed a long time before reaching the housing that was reserved for her. It was a tiny attic bedroom that was sparsely furnished. There was only a straw mattress and a small bedside table with an old rag, a little candle, and a shot of broken mirror resting on it. Oh my god, we get a shot of mirror. Amazing. The attic was covered with spiderwebs. The entire room was collecting dust. I'm sorry, but that's the best I can give you. You'll have to do some cleaning to make this small bedroom slightly more presentable. It's still better than living on the streets, right? Absolutely. Thank you for Thank you for providing me a roof. Fiona is so close to Fiona, she wears donkey skin. This must be the Shrek reboot. Or this is what Shrek came from, mayhaps. Shrek reboots. When is Shrek 5 coming out? Didn't we get that announced recently? You're gonna spend tomorrow with me. I'll explain everything you need to know about the daily functionings of the castle, and you'll be on the dinner shift after that. Did we? I think we did, didn't we? Did we not? Too soon. No, what does that mean? Did they take it back? Did they take backsies? Yes, madam. I don't follow Shrek. I can't believe this, Black Blue. You don't follow Shrek. You must be exhausted. You better rest now. I certainly will. Good night to you. After a bit of cleaning, the worn-out girl lay in a makeshift bed. This is not quite the same as farm life. It seems awfully familiar, she whispered while closing her eyes. Thus, she spent her first night in Prince Grisel's castle. What a lovely day that was. There's a teaser trailer. Oh! Yo. I actually haven't seen the teaser. But I know that the kids have grown up in it, I think. As promised, Berth came pounding on the door early in the morning to wake her up. Get up, Donkey Skin, you have much to do today. Faced with a lack of response, the cook took the liberty of entering the attic room. Donkey Skin, can you hear me? Can't believe it, she's still sleeping. Fiona half opened her eyes, still drowsy. You would think, after having done this routine for so long, she'd be better at waking up early. What is going on? A fire? Fortunately, no. Well, you're quite the heavy sleeper. Come on, girl, get up. Through shaking her, Berth finally managed to make the princess surface, and the latter sluggishly rubbed her eyes. The night ended so fast. The day will end just as fast, I guarantee that. Come on, you're the last one. Kiona started to panic. The last one? Everybody has already left? Not yet, but it'll be the case if you dawdle too much. I'm the one in charge of waking the servants up. I naturally begin by the bedrooms downstairs. Since you're in the attic, my course ends with you. I already knocked on the other doors. Oh, I see. That is very nice of you, Beth. Don't thank me and come to the common room instead. Don't forget, you're supposed to be my assistant for the day. I'm counting on you. Kiona jumped out of bed and followed on the cook's heels after a quick wash-up. By following her to the workplace, the young woman confirmed her prediction from the night before. All valets and servants she'd met coming the other way did not miss a chance to greet Berth. She must really be holding an important position in the castle. How lucky for her to have run into the cook in town. Well, here we are in the kitchens, you furry little animal. This is my kingdom. But to prepare the meals Lord Griselda will eat, I cannot work alone. I need multiple talents, and today you will be one of these talents. Really? Of course. For your first day, I'm not going to entrust you with a task that's too important. I need to see you in action to evaluate what you're capable of, which is nothing. For now, you're going to peel vegetables. Oh. Kiona lowered her eyes, with a disappointed pout which did not elude the good woman. There's no such thing as a menial job, donkey skin. If you chop vegetables into regular shapes, you will make the work of the vegetable cook easier. What is a vegetable cook? Well, insofar as the prince's feasts require an enormous amount of food, the staff working in the kitchen is composed of several specialists. I gotta look for now, the story has made me hungry. Go get some food. There's a sommelier, who's in charge of the wine, a sauce cook for the sauces, a vegetable cook for vegetables, a soup cook for soups, and a roasting cook, who exclusively takes care of roasted meals. We also need specialists for side tasks, such as a tablecloth valet, who specifically takes care of laying the table or the larderer, responsible for food preservation. Someone who's just responsible for laying out the table? What do they do normally then? Add to that a handful of commis, and you get the creme de la creme in terms of catering trades. I was not aware one needed so many people in the kitchen. And yet, you also have a role to play in this big orchestra. Even if it's a minor one, it's admittedly less prestigious to be the triangle player than the cellist, but you are nonetheless part of the same family. What about you, Berth? What exactly is your role? I serve as conductor in a way. I've been appointed as head chef, so it's my duty to conceive menus and supervise the different cooks. That is quite an important position. Indeed, and I made a point of being worthy of it. Kiona was impressed to learn that Berth was at the very top of the hierarchy of the king's servants. Well, of the cooks, the catering staff. She became even more impressed when she got to admire her in action. Whereas she was laboriously trying to follow the instructions she was given to obtain perfectly cut vegetables, Berth seemed to be accomplishing the same tasks with disconcerting ease. It made her guidance all the more precious, and the young woman felt proud to be the protege of someone so important. When lunchtime came, the valets rushed to the kitchen to take the dishes in a great ballet of plates. Kiona could not help but be afraid that they would trip over a step on the way. The procession was constant, uninterrupted. Course after course, the meals were all sent until the calm finally allowed the servants to bring the leftovers back to the common room. Participating in the common effort, the princess followed suit by carrying a pâté and kraut. What is that? Berth took that opportunity to get closer to her and whisper, "Oh yes. Usage requires that the staff in the king's service eat the lunch leftovers, according to their order of importance." Oh no, we're gonna get the scraps! At least Kiona has respect for her work, even if she's crap at it. It's true, she also respected the farm work for the most part. Royal Steward and myself will be served first, then it will be different cooks, and so on and so forth. Since you just arrived as a goose herder, you will inevitably be one of the last to be served. I see. Until then, Kiona had been used to be served first as a princess. She could not deny it was unpleasant to be among people of lowly status. Bitterness took over her heart as she was watching the cooks eat. The natural order of things was not respected. It was for her that Berth should have worked. Even so, the young woman was so hungry that she swallowed her pride. She took comfort in telling herself that she was discovering what was going on behind the scenes of the castle life, that this experience would certainly be useful once she would assume the throne. Incidentally, she fully intended to become Berth's master by wedding Griselda. Consoled, she imagined a sweeter future in which all these people would be working towards fulfilling her desires, a future that was within reach. I like that no matter how much Kiona goes through, she is still a princess at heart, which is to say she is incredibly vain. Well, Donkey Skin, you look absent-minded during lunch. Is something wrong? It is nothing. I just need some more time to get used to your customs. That's quite normal. You've just arrived. You'll see, in a few days you'll feel at home. Like, Bertha is being so kind to her. And all her thoughts are just, this is not how it should be. I should be her master. She just assumes she'll be queen of the country, and it is even her own. I know. I know that she was almost queen, but it's still, yeah. The princess let out an arrogant smile. Indeed, in a few days, she would have the occasion to speak to Lord Griselda, and soon she would be queen. Unaware of her new recruit's insolent thoughts, Beth expanded on her afternoon agenda with enthusiasm. I kind of love it though. Like, from a character perspective, it makes her so interesting. She then offered to take her on a tour of the property, which Kiona gladly accepted. Oddly enough, she started with a familiar place. You've already visited the kitchens, but I'd like to remind you, the catering trade makes up the bulk of work in the house of any self-respecting sovereign. With such a tremendous amount of dishes to handle, your help will be welcome. I taught you some of the basics today, so you're free to persevere in this field. Who knows? You could improve under my command and become an excellent cook. I'm far from having your experience. That's only natural, eh? Earth cleared her throat and took the protege outside. There are many other activities that are necessary to keep the castle well run. Not the well-pulling. For instance, cleaning household linen, as well as nobles' and retainers' garments, is a task that is very time-consuming. The washing place is located in a corner of the courtyard. If you choose to be a laundrywoman, that's where you'll have to go to rub and rinse the laundry. It's a convivial place that's very popular when it comes to chatting. You may make some friends in the process. Oh, are we able to pick what we do now? Understood. Another sizable activity would be the castle's upkeep. The monarch likes to live in a clean palace and receive guests in good conditions. The sheer number of servants walking through the corridors every day, you can easily imagine that they get dirty real quick. It's a profoundly thankless job, but someone's got to volunteer to do the dusting, sweeping, and cleaning of the ground. If you do sacrifice yourself, know that the others will thank you for that. But surely in a castle like this with so many specific members of staff, there would be one cleaner whose job is to just clean the hallways. That's one thing I could not do. I do not like cleaning the floor, and I never want to do that. We will see if I have the courage to do so. It's the one job no one wants to do. It's true. They can't even hire people. Not even on the brink of starvation. No one wants to do it. Any case, those are the 3 major tasks you can choose to carry out in the afternoon, once you'll be done with tending to the geese. You're free to alternate between tasks to test out different things or focus on a single thing, if you want to specialize. Of course, the more you repeat a chore, the more experience you gain, the more dexterous you'll become. Oh wow. Wait, are we gonna develop skills? Thank you for those precisions. You're welcome. Before I forget, how you spare your spare time is none of my business, but I like to make a few suggestions if you don't mind. It is fine with me. I am listening. If you don't know what to do or you're feeling isolated, walking the hallways can prove to be surprisingly instructive. Retainers come and go all the time. You can come across people who need help or weird rumors. No, finding out rumors? Did you guys see that post that was like, you can just ask people. You can just go to a bar and ask about the rumors and people will tell you the rumors. Like, you can just do that. I want to test that out. One of these days, I want to go out to like a pub or a bar or something and ask a stranger about the rumors. What are the local rumors? I suppose that rumors are rife in such a place. If you need some fresh air, you can always take care of the garden. You can come rake the alleys, pull out weeds, or watch the animals. That's what I would be doing every day. Prince Griseld often comes here to look after his birds of prey. Don't dare approach them or he could get angry. Thank you for the warning. I will do my best not to commit a blunder. Naturally, I'm always busy in the kitchen at that time of day since I need to oversee all the meals. You don't have to, but don't hesitate to come see me. I'll never refuse an extra pair of hands. I will keep that in mind. Of course, if you'd rather rest in your room, I won't judge you. This possibility is just as valid, and it's better not to overwork yourself if you're not feeling well. You look like you're a bit frail, and I don't want you to get sick. Earth is so sweet! I will take care of myself. There is no way I am going to disappoint you. Now that's a relief. In that case, I think our tour is complete. I'm going back to the kitchen. Consider that you're off duty until further notice. The cook hastily disappeared. She was certainly expected to prepare dinner. The sun was already setting on the horizon for that. Sorry, my nose is getting blocked again. It only happens with this game and other VNs, and y'all know this. I can believe that people who drink at pubs have loose lips. I want to know. I want to know what the rumors are. The princess esteemed it was better to be sensible and not dawdle for too long. Oh my god, we get to hang out with people. I'm gonna save. How's the sound, by the way? Can you hear the game okay? Thus, she retraced her steps to the common room. It was still too early for a large gathering, but several servants were happily talking around the fireplace. They immediately noticed her appearance and invited Kiona to join them. So, new girl, how are you feeling? Nervous? I am alright for now. I think I have learnt the gist of the overall functioning, and I hope to carry out my work the best I can. Such diligence. Now I know why Berth took you under her wing. The young Moor smiled courteously. She did not have the slightest desire to tackle domestic chores, and she would have gladly objected to doing them. However, she knew perfectly well that she was in a difficult position. She had to approach the prince without arousing suspicion. Furthermore, her tragic adventure with the Ansel family had taught her that the slightest mistake could potentially be lethal. She had to be very careful. This is why she was imitating Fleur's seriousness and adding her own touch of amiability in order to appear convincing. But obviously, this was something she had to keep to herself. I actually hate you and everything about this place. In front of the chambermaids, Kiona preferred to retain the mask of a model student and not make waves. That's true. It already seems like she likes you. Do you think so? I was under the impression that she was treating everyone the same. Oh, I didn't mean to say you were her favorite or anything like that. It wouldn't be honest. Berth likes everyone. She can appear very strict, but she's always fair-minded. Even if she can seem a little scary with her stature or her abrupt way of speaking, she cares deeply about paying attention to all the servants in her service, and to the others too. In that, she's kind of doing the royal steward's job in his place. For sure, she works twice as much. Then again, the royal steward is getting old. It may be unavoidable. I did not know that Berth was this popular. Given her position as head chef, I would have imagined that the retainers feared her. Oh no, we do. We do fear the royal steward, but not Berth. Whenever one of us is in trouble, we know we can tell her and she'll listen. That's really nice. I know a laundrywoman who wanted to take the day off to attend a funeral of her parents who had died in a fire. Well, the royal steward refused on the pretext that Lord Griseld was organizing a great banquet that night. The poor girl was a sobbing wreck. Fortunately, she mentioned it to Berth, who then managed to convince the royal steward in the name of Catholic moral teachings. Oh my god. That's so fucked up, not letting someone go to a funeral. Can't believe the old geezer dared to say no. It's not like she has to attend a funeral every day. What can I say? He's been completely out of it for some time. Maybe that comes with age. All that is to say, you've been adopted in a flash. Be correct in return. It's a good way to thank Birth for her trust. Fiona left the servants with a head full of questions. She still knew too little about the cook, but she seemed to be a good person. In a way, she was reminding her of Nahima and her boundless kindness. That evening, during supper, the young woman observed Birth from a distance. She saw her inquire about the condition of several servants. She seemed genuinely worried for each of them. Upset by so much energy spent at the service of others. Oh my god, I'm crying. The princess withdrew to her maid's room. Only a royal could say that with a straight... Only a royal could think that with a straight face. Upset by so much energy spent at the service of others. Kiona, my girl, my girly pop. Oh my god. Lying on her bed, she was staring at the ceiling, pensive. Life was not that bad. She was as close as possible to her suitor, surrounded by people who looked friendly at first glance. She was already complimented by her diligence. Was everything going a little too well? Was there truly no black spot? It went without saying that she was not very pleased by the loss of her status as heiress to the throne, but really, this was only a temporary situation. Searching her mind, Kiona managed to extract the answer from her memory. What she was missing the most was Nahima's presence. Her godmother's advice, giving herself time to dream. Ooh. Helping people is so draining. Let me take a break. And it's like, you were not... Oh no. Ooh. Do we miss Nahima? Do we miss dreaming? I don't think I miss my godmother's advice. That's a bit random. Time to dream. Time to dream is what I would choose normally. However, I'm curious how we're going to see Nahima considering our situation. The more we get to know Kiona, the less likely I actually see her and Nahima having a nice relationship, because I feel like Kiona will always look down on her. I feel like the Kiona that we are building up will always look down on someone who's taking care of her, you know, who's like of a status below her. So I'm curious to see if that will go in a good direction. But maybe because she's known her whole life, it's a little bit different. I don't see how those two were friends in the first place after seeing Kiona in the position of a peasant. I think it's more that Nahima is just really, really kind. I think it's more that. I think the fact that they grew up together also changes things. Like, you know when someone is like really mean to everyone else, but then they're close with their like childhood friend, who they can be a little bit mean to sometimes as well, but they kind of just go along with it because they've known each other their whole life and they're just used to it, and that's just a dynamic that they've grown up with. But it doesn't seem like Kiona was ever really mean to Nahima. So, I don't know. I think they're just used to each other. What the young woman was truly missing at that moment was the presence of her friend. The mad pace of the farm life hardly allowed daydreaming, but she had still thought about her faithful accomplice many times during her stay with the Ansel family. There was nothing really. I wonder what Nahima would say upon seeing that. What would Nahima do in the situation? Or if only Nahima could feel what I feel. It was nothing really. Just recurring thoughts that were floating around her, like so many reminders of their separation. Now that she was immersed in a new environment, the princess was all the more eager to see a familiar face again, to share her impressions. That's when a realization imposed itself on her, casting a shadow over her mood. As long as she was going back in time, Yona could never tell her friend about her incredible adventures. Since time had passed only for her, what she had lived no longer existed, and if she failed again, what she was currently living would also fade. It was vital that her exile end soon. I hope I will manage to speak to Prince Griselda quickly. The princess sighed. Upon consideration, she was only in the situation because she cared too much about Nahima. She had refused to sacrifice her memories to obtain the fairy's powers, and had found herself circumventing the inevitable consequence by going back in time. She could not help it. Kiona could not envisage forsaking the one person who was dear to her. She needed Nahima in her life, even if they were momentarily separated. Changing position, the young woman slumped on the side, turning her back to the door, her cheek pressed against her hand in a melancholic posture. I wonder what she is doing right now. And it did not take long to fall asleep, her head filled with the experiences she had felt, excited by the prospect of living new ones. Okay, we're about to get a break in like 5 minutes. However, my nose is so blocked, I cannot read straight. I cannot read straight right now. Did you know tiaras are kind of weird? Oh no! I gave you a task that I didn't actually think about the complications around them. In my head, I was like, plop a PNG on top of it. I thought this edit would be easy. There's so many. Oh no. Flint, you are going above and beyond. Coco's hair is golden! It's going to like blend in. Coco's showing her princess predisposition already! Wow, I didn't realize it was gonna be such a difficult task for you. Wow. That's not how I meant it. Getting the fit right with like the vampire cloak and all of that. Oh right, because it's also at an angle, isn't it? Okay. I'll let you keep fiddling around with that. I'm gonna go grab some water. Blow out my nose. This is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. Alright. Let's continue our lovely castle life. From that point onwards, she settled into a new life. A new daily life. Every morning, Beth would knock on her door and wake her up. Since she had noticed the lethargic tendencies of her protege, she did not hesitate to wait a few minutes before barging into the little attic room. Fiona was always the last one out of bed. She usually had breakfast in a rush before rushing toward the courtyard. I'm surprised they even gave her breakfast. I swear most times, like, in this time period, people just didn't have breakfast. Thanks to the lessons she had learned on the farm, she managed to lead her geese outside the city's walls without much difficulty. The dungeon was not the most appropriate place for the poultry to go frisking. This is why the young woman always took the same little path to lead her gaggle in the pastures surrounding the city. Well, that sounds lovely. This activity proved to be rather relaxing and allowed her to let her thoughts drift. That day, for example, the princess felt her mind once again focusing on Fleur. It's a lot more common for people doing active work, I believe. Oh, okay, that makes sense. I guess lunch was like not something that people really did, right? It was mostly like, if anything, breakfast and then dinner. But for common peasants, it was like just dinner, I think, right? Like dinner was the big meal that everyone had. But I suppose if you're working in a castle and you're getting leftovers, you might as well get like the big, lunch leftovers. Yeah, you're probably getting more leftovers than other people would. Which just makes me think, I feel like it's probably, I bet everyone wants to work at a castle if you're living, close to poverty. Because at least then it's guaranteed a definite meal, multiple meals every day. That day, for example, the princess felt her mind once again focus on Fleur. I would have probably never been able to keep this job at the castle without her. After all, not so long ago, I did not know how to do any manual task. Oh. Yes, Kiona felt indebted for the time she had spent by Fleur's side, which had taught her so much. In a way, she could perceive a positive evolution in her story. Being exiled to the countryside had taught her the basics of common people's life. Basics she was now using to come closer to her happy ending in the arms of the prince. Her ill-advised decision to feign her own death ultimately appeared as a rash moment, a wrong turn that did not have a place in the well-oiled tale she had imagined. At the same time, she still did not know what to make of Fleur's betrayal. Of her drowning, it was both a crucial element to her story and an aberration. Yes, Kiona was still affected by this betrayal. She was fixating on it like a question that would eternally remain unanswered. Yet life had gone on again, and she had to move on one way or another. Once the gaggle had been brought back inside the castle, and she had gobbled her noon snack, the princess set off in order to carry out the task she had committed to do the night before, during the servants' gathering. Indeed, she had chosen— Oh! We can make choices! Yes! Good evening, how's it going? Hi, Helia! It's going very, very well. Kiona is making a lot of decisions and having a lot of interesting thoughts. And it's very fun to see her— Ooh. Oh, it seems this one will lead to us talking to Fairy Godmother. This one will— Who the fuck is that? And this one— Oh! What does this mean? Oh, is this like, if we hang out with them, we'll get closer to Nahima. If we hang out with her, we'll get closer to Fairy Godmother. And if we hang out with this random guy, maybe because it's a gardens, we'll go and hang out with the prince. Okay, did I just save? I did. Ooh. I see, I see. I want to hang out with a Fairy Godmother, to be honest. I kind of want to see where that's going to go. I feel like out of all the characters, Fairy Godmother probably would be able to whack us back into place. The heiress had decided to lend a helping hand in the kitchen. She had heard Berth say that she needed an assistant and had considered it was a good opportunity to repay her debt. To Kiona, it was a token of goodwill, her way to show Berth that she had been right to employ her. Furthermore, considering what little experience she had a few days earlier, it could not hurt her to make progress in such a useful area. She'd always enjoyed learning, and it would have been a shame to give a new disciple up so quickly without even knowing what she was worth. Besides, it was almost a personal challenge, a godsend to prove to herself that she was capable of anything as long as she was showing tenacity. At least, that was what she was thinking as she was timidly pushing the kitchen door open. The head chef noticed her straight away. Well, well, furry little animal, what are you doing here? My understanding was that there was a need for a commis chef to prepare the Lord's meal, and I would like to offer my services. Berth seemed pleasantly surprised and flashed a satisfied grin. That's very kind of you. For that matter, you couldn't have come at a better time. I didn't ask you last time, but you do have some knowledge of cooking. I have already made cheese. The good woman placed her hands on her hips and burst into a hearty laughter that destabilized the princess. She, who had thought this experience would prove useful, pouted upon realizing that she was made fun of. Oh girlie, everyone in this time period knows how to make cheese. That's already better than nothing, eh? To earn the great honor of cooking for Prince Griselda, you will have to show me your determination first, alright? The indignity bolstered, Kiona frowned and acquiesced with pride. Yes, madam. I know how to make cheese in Minecraft. To the kitchens, Black Blue. To the kitchens with you. Very well. I'll teach you everything I know. Ugh, I want to play Minecraft again. Today, you'll have to make a relatively easy dish. Parmesan crust soup. Open up your ears and clean out your eyes. What? Just as she previously did, the young woman had to clean and peel the vegetables, which were used in a pearl broth she left to simmer. How do you know how much time it is going to take? Well, I've learned all my recipes by heart. No book shall be found here. The knowledge exists in my head. Really? So you never make any mistakes? Of course I do. It does happen from time to time, but the essential is still there. And then I use an hourglass to keep an eye on the passing of time. For a broth like this one, 2 turns should be enough. The most difficult part is keep the heat constant. You have to adjust the flames depending on the meals and regularly monitor them to avoid burning the food. Nothing's worse than having a blackish residue on the bottom of a cooking pot. I see. Why did we begin with this part of the recipe and not another one? When there are several elements, it's more practical to start with the one that has the longest preparation time. Thus, we'll have plenty of time to get our crust ready while the broth is boiling. They now had to move on to the next step. Beth grabbed some bread, flour, and eggs and started to shape a dough. Fiona immediately imitated her on all counts. Still, your gestures are so precise. My balls of dough looked shapeless compared to yours. That's normal, you're just starting. Back when I started cooking, I was saying the same thing to my master. So you have had a master? Naturally. Everything I know, I've learned from someone. Why don't you? Because I always start it, and then I wait for an update, because I want to use Optifine. And then Optifine needs to get an update, and then I just end up, like, never playing. I really should try, though. I think it'd be fun. I wonder what this person could look like. My master was a capricious old man who didn't hesitate to scold me at the slightest mistake. It was very severe, but still good at heart. He just didn't dare show it. The broth being ready, the 2 women moved on to the next step. Fiona seized a container and spread a lace of dough around it. She poured the broth with grated Parmesan cheese inside and set to make her preparation grill under the rigorous eyes of Berth. Minutes later, the Parmesan crust soup was ready and emitted a delicious smell. The cook examined it before handing down her verdict. Well, there are still imperfections to correct, but it's not bad, Donkey Skin. You're doing pretty well. Thank you very much. Does it mean the prince is going to eat my soup? Absolutely. I wonder what his thoughts will be. I don't want to give you false hope, girl. There's little chance he's gonna see a difference. Unless you prepared the best soup in the world, he's not gonna bother inquiring to know who cooked for him. Disappointment quickly gave way to joy again. Deep down, the young woman was especially proud of her achievement and could not help puffing out her chest. That's the spirit. How much more gratifying it is to make a dish yourself than simply attending to its preparation. That's the spirit. Keep it up. You can only improve. I fully intend to. With this, go away before I stop monopolizing the limited amount of free time you have for yourself. Berth is so sweet. I love Berth. Electrified, Kiona waved Berth goodbye and headed for the common room. The sun had set, plunging the castle into a golden brown light. The princess had not noticed how quickly time had passed. She was too focused on her task. Thus, she had hardly thought about how she was going to use the last hours she had left before dinner. The castle was vast. She could very well take a walk, get some fresh air, or rest. To suit her whims and fancies, Kiona decided to... Oh! Oh no. Oh no, 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 no. Courtyard, hallway, kitchen. Common room. Interesting. I suppose we could go see the prince, because he's usually in the courtyard, I think. The young woman thought she had a recollection of Berth mentioning that Prince Griseld would often come to the castle's courtyard to take care of his birds of prey. Since the beginning of her stay, she had yet to see him, and felt greatly frustrated. She imperatively had to correct this unfortunate mistake as soon as possible. Oh, girl, I don't think he's going to be as nice to you now that you're a servant. Her eagerness to see her paramour again made her febrile, and she hastened to the garden, praying with all her heart that he would grace her with his presence. Naturally, she could not simply stand still and wait. She needed a good excuse, a camouflage. For that reason, Kiona began to pull out the weeds and rake the alleys. Her efforts did not take long to pay off. Griseld himself appeared after a few minutes, accompanied by some of his squires. The heiress internally complained she had hoped to talk to him, as she did not dare come closer because of the nobles who would not let her lover out of her sight. She's already calling him his lover. She limited herself to observing him from a distance. Birds chirped when the young man approached the cages. He opened one of them, from which he took out a majestic hawk, and requested that it would land on his leather glove. The animal complied with a nimble and graceful leap. No, I missed an hour. Did they marry yet? No, they did not. They did not. We have worked our way up to now making our own soup. That's what's happened. That's all that's happened. We've literally just been like going around doing servant work. And Kiona having various thoughts of wanting to master everyone else. Are they beating her royal ass for lying? No, they still think that she is but a maid. But a girl from the countryside. And we're getting a lot of help from Berth, the cook, the head cook. And we're getting along quite well with all the other stuff, it seems. But now this is the first time we've seen Griseld since arriving, so it's a very majestic moment. Such docility, my lord! Is it not? And yet I have only caught it for a couple of days. No bird can resist me. The prince put the hawk on a shrub, took a few steps back, and stretched his hand. I was so upset I missed the beginning. I didn't send a weird one-liner. It's true. Sometimes we need a second of honesty. Sometimes we need to just let ourselves bear loose. And that's fine too. The squire speedily brought him some pieces of raw meat, a feed destined for birds, which he presented to the animal. Moments later, the hawk stretched its wing and swooped on its target with a lightning speed. The prince rewarded it with a few beakfuls of food. And Kiona could only admire the dexterity he had displayed. The exercise was repeated several times with an increasing distance. Mesmerized by the spectacle, she would have almost forgotten her task. It has to be said that falconry was a noble's pastime, par excellence. And Griseld seemed to have perfectly mastered this field, which was only increasing his prestige. He seemed so strong, so bold, so good-looking. Seduced, the young woman sighed with melancholy. Let him notice me, so I can tell him. Alas, once he had finished looking after his birds, the prince walked away, his escort after him. Worse still, he did not even look at her. She felt greatly bitter. Her pride as a princess had been wounded by the cruel indifference he was showing her. She swore to make him change his mind. You bore. I will oblige you to look at me. Whoa. Oh my god. Kiona is actually so funny. I can't. The next day, Kiona led her geese to pasture as she did every morning. I want to be a goose herder. This looks like such a chill time. Sitting in the emerald green ocean, splattered with the rustling of blades of grass flying in the wind, she felt at peace. That one line is actually a quote from a fairy tale. What fairy tale? Be careful, geese don't bite you. That's true, actually. Geese are kind of evil. It was probably the most peaceful part of her long day, the most pleasant one. She had just to watch the horizon under the tepid rays of the rising sun. Once again, her thoughts took a walk in the fields. The breeze that was caressing the hill reminded her of the sound of the waves, reminding her of that day. Uh-oh. A hallucination abruptly tainted her field of vision, a face distorted by tears. distorted by hostility. I think one thing I also like is that these events that have affected her so much, like almost being buried alive, being buried alive and almost dying from that. And then, obviously this big betrayal. No matter how, like, founded it was a traumatic moment. Like, it was a hugely traumatic moment. And I like that we're seeing, like, the repercussions of that. Liar. Kiona shuddered. Let's check, actually. I think I did unlock some more. Ooh! Yes, we did. Griselda, Princess Rosette, and Legadus de Dinon... whatever. Griselda. La Patience de Griselides. 1691, or simply Griselda. The very first fairy tale published by Charles Perrault. Really? Written in verses, just like Donkey Skin and The Ridiculous Wishes. This text draws its inspiration from a legend already related by Boccaccio in the Decameron, Legend of the Marchioness of Saluzzo. We are introduced to a prince with a distrustful disposition. He is convinced that women are prompt to deceive, and consequently obstinately refuses to marry. Although his counselors press him to give an heir, he firmly believes that any virtue is only a mask ready to fall off. Oh, is this a Princess and the Pea? I don't think so, actually. As soon as the wedding ends, that no truly loyal and sincere woman can exist. That is, until he gets lost in the forest one day while going hunting and ends up by a stream in an enchanting place. By chance, the prince then meets a shepherdess named Griselda, with whom he instantly falls in love with thanks to her beauty and modesty. When he confesses to be lost, the young woman timidly shows him out, and he takes advantage of this opportunity to memorize the path so he can see her again as regularly as possible. Oh, that's me! Griselda? Wait, isn't this what happens? Like, isn't this what Kiona does? I originally planned for the player to pick routes in almost any order, but then went for a more enforced order because I thought events were shaping Kiona too much. Absolutely, I quite like that way of doing it. I think it's more interesting that way, that we see these past events actually. Personally, I love routes. I think that they're always really fun, but I've always preferred a story that is more built up to shape the protagonist in a very particular way, per the author's kind of wishes. I think that has more of a powerful effect, rather than like routes that have nothing to do with each other. Again, not that there's anything wrong with routes that have nothing to do with each other, because I do love playing games like that as well. But I think overall I do like a more enclosed story. I think that they tend to be a lot more stronger in the kind of point that they're trying to make, but also in the kind of effects that we'll have on like all of the characters. I'm a prince who stumbled upon a street. Shut up, Baton. That's exactly what happened. It is what happened, right? Okay, Griselda 2. In the course of their meetings, the prince becomes certain that Griselda is the ideal woman he has always been seeking and convinces himself to marry her. He asks for her father's consent and announces the news to his people without further delay, while being careful to hide the bride's identity. The day of the wedding. This is literally exactly what Griselda did, actually. The day of the wedding, everyone is greatly surprised to see him head for the forest. Griselda herself, dressed in her Sunday clothes, is about to leave her hut to go see the procession, when the prince picks her up just in time to reveal that she is the one he has chosen. She first thinks that it is a joke, before accepting and swears to always follow his will. The shepherdess is then turned into a magnificent princess by the court ladies, and takes her place right beside her husband on a chariot made of gold and ivory. The procession returns to town to parade, and the ceremony takes place in due form. Way to propose to the girl on the wedding day? Crazy, right? But princes be doing prince things. What if she said no? That would have been embarrassing. That would have been embarrassing. Imagine he's like, no, we're gonna get married anyway. And it will be a loveless and sad marriage. We know Kiona was manipulative when she did that. Did Griselda also do that too? It seems in this case, no. It seems like this was just like a little pleasant fairy tale. But obviously things did not go that way in our... You'll see with the next Griselda entry, I just blended the story my way a little. Yeah, it seems like that. It's a rather wild fairy tale, you'll see. What does that mean? Oh my god! Puss in Boots! Princess Rosette, 1698. A fairy tale written by Madame d'Aulnoy, which relates to tribulations of the eponymous princess? What does eponymous mean? Following her birth, fairies foresee that she will put her two brothers in danger. In order to protect them, the king and the queen built a tower to isolate Rosette, but take the secret to the grave with them. When the two brothers finally free her a few years later, she claims that she will not marry anyone but the king of peacocks, and the both of them will leave on a long journey to find him. Guys, maybe you should have told maybe you should have told them that she was going to put them in danger. The king of peacocks does exist in a faraway kingdom. He succumbs to the charms of Rosette's portrait after the princes show it to him. However, he has trouble believing such a beautiful princess could exist, and only accepts to marry her if his guests stay in prison until her arrival. The two brothers agree and send a letter to Rosette so that she can come. Overjoyed, she immediately boards a ship accompanied by her nurse and her milk sibling. Her milk sibling? Those two are incredibly jealous, and they scheme with the boatman to throw her overboard as soon as the Enchanted Kingdom is in sight. Why? Why then? The nurse then disguises her hideous daughter as a princess. Oh! This was also combined with it, as a princess, in the hope that the king will be fooled and marry her instead of Rosette. He immediately sees a difference with the portrait, and in rage, sentences the two brothers to death for making a mockery of him. Wow. That is sad. R.I.P. What did you make the game in? Is it Rempe or something else? Yeah, this is Rempe. Rempe logo even appears when you launch the game. Oh, I didn't actually notice that. How easy was it using Rempe? Because I've been wanting to make a game on it for a while. But I actually just I never tried. I want to. They don't die if that makes you feel better. There's more to that story I didn't tell. Really? Okay, good. Whew. What happens in the rest of the story? It's pronounced Renpai, is it? Oops. Y'all know I can't pronounce things. Renpai is one of the easiest VN engines, I'd say. Oh, because of Python. Alright, that makes sense. I feel like someone has told me this before, and I proceed to just not acknowledge. It's like when we play Atelier, and, well, for one, I'm pronouncing it Atelier instead of Atelier. And I consistently pronounce Logi as Logi and not Logi. And I don't care. And I don't care. Anyway. La Gardeuse des Dindons. Dindons? The Turkey Keeper, a variation told by folklorist Jean-François Bladet in Contes populaires de la Gascogne, 1886. Both similar to Cinderella and Donkey Skin. Oh, interesting. Okay. An old king desires to test his 3 daughters in order to ascertain which one he should bequeath his land and properties to. What the hell is in that picture? The 2 eldest assure him of their love, but the youngest only says that she loves him as much as salt. Upset, wait, I feel like this is familiar. The old king asks his valet to put her to death as punishment for her insult. Oh my god. Fortunately, he prefers to save her and discreetly helps her to escape instead. On his recommendations, the princess settles in a neighboring castle to work as a turkey keeper. That's kind of like what happens here. The prince of this kingdom is quite handsome, and she falls in love with him. When carnival time arrives, she pretends to be sick and goes to the ball every night dressed in her finest dresses, identical to Donkey Skin's. So he would notice her. Oh, I see. Only during the last night does she lose her red slipper. Wait, this is like in Cinderella, but like in the, I guess in the Into the Woods variation that I've seen, where she like goes back to the ball multiple days and then she, you know, obviously in that iteration, she's like, I don't really care about the prince, but. So that he would notice her. Only during the last night does she lose her red slipper, which spurs the prince to try it on all the maidens of the country to find her. Just like Cinderella, you can guess what happens next. Wow. The prince is saved by a peasant sidekick who gives in to all her whims. I still say Renpee despite knowing this. At some point, her magical dog steals the king's food because nothing else is to her taste. So the king finds her and realizes the brothers were right. I hate that princess character. She's insufferable. That's why I didn't want the peasants to be bowing down. Oh, wow. Her magical dog steals the king's food because nothing else is to her taste. She's got a magical dog. Wow. Gotta stop by here. I hope you get the prince and put him in his place. I don't even know what's gonna happen there. Also, I thought the brothers survived. Did they not? It doesn't seem like they survived even in this version. R.I.P. Alright, let's continue. Kiona shuddered. Even if she appreciated the brief moment of quietness granted to her every morning, she had to admit that she never truly had peace of mind. The country air continuously reminded her of Fleur, with her that fateful day when everything had changed. They survived because the king realized his mistake before. Oh, okay, I see. Whew. Why does this image haunt me so much? Why did she do that? Will I ever find the answer? As the princess was sighing with a bitter look, another flash came to her mind. A vision of the same day, the same face. The few seconds that had led up to her fall into the river. Yeah, because she admitted that she didn't want to do this, and she had cared about us. This time, the young farmer was disfigured by grief and guilt. She was painfully articulating in a husky breath. So sorry, Kiona. The heiress shuddered again, shocked. She had perceived those few seconds, but she had not been able to extract their meaning, for she had been thrown into the water at that very moment. Fleur, she did not want to harm me. Did she see no other possibility than sacrificing me to survive? She was that desperate? Fiona looked up toward the sky, frozen in a contemplative posture. Fleur, I still do not understand what pushed you into acting that way. But I still believe I can start forgiving you now. Regardless of what the young Moor's inclinations may be, she cannot allow herself to let them influence her future. She had to focus on her goal, and her goal only. In theory, at least, her mind was clouded by all sorts of hopes and worries. It was almost impossible for her to get rid of them. If she managed to get Fleur out of her mind, Nahima would take her place. I wish I could know what has become of Nahima. She must be wasting away, alone, in my father's gloomy and bleak castle. I think we should have just let her leave as well. I hope I will be able to send her a letter soon to tell her I am fine. It was already time to bring back the geese. Thus, the princess got back on her feet and dusted herself. I'm so curious about how everyone is at the castle at the moment. We never find out because we always end up going back in time, but we never find out what Nahima's going through. As soon as Griselda will have agreed to marry me, I will ask her to come by my side. Hold on, Nahima. We are almost there. Once the gaggle had been brought back inside the castle, and her noon snack had been gobbled, the princess set off in order to carry out the task she'd committed to do the night before. Aha! Okay, Let's try. Let's hang out with the servants. I feel like it's probably not the best idea to try and do everything, but I just want to see. The heiress had decided to take care of the laundry. You'll find out. Right now she's too focused on her crush. It's true. Nothing can break into that brain at the moment. She had heard that it was a highly social chore. She had hoped that contributing would help her bond with the other laundry women. To Kiona, it was a token of goodwill, her way to show Berth that she had been right to employ her. Furthermore, considering what had happened with Fleur, it would not hurt her to speak with servants more often. Nahima had always reproached her for having a rather withdrawn nature. Consequently, it was the perfect opportunity to prove to her that she was capable of being more assertive. At least, that was what she was thinking as she followed the laundry woman. The group was supposed to retrieve the linen from the kitchens and the nobles' bedrooms with very heavy baskets, then bring them to the courtyard. The trip was not even done that Kiona had already noticed mocking smiles and suspicious whispers. Check out the new girl's look. Who would wear a fur of donkey as clothes? Hang me if those rags don't hide some infirmity. That must be true, or it's just that his skin is entirely covered with filth. That would explain why it's so dark. Wow. Yikes. The young woman sighed while lowering her eyes. Even though anger was consuming her from the inside, it would have been quite reckless of her to retaliate. She was not keen to take part in a conflict, and was hoping that the small group would eventually get tired of it. Ooh. White boy, save me, white boy. No, not save me, white boy. Unfortunately, they did not stop. When all the we should have hung out with the chef. These guys suck. When all the laundry women gathered in the courtyard were vigorously rubbing the fabric with ash to clean it, she heard the same servant slandering her again. You think she's the daughter of a tanner to reek like that? That would explain her garb. Only a tanner could stand such a stench. There's a reason why they're usually pushed back outside the city's walls. We should have pushed her back too. What was Berth thinking, hiring such a disgusting thing at the castle? What the fuck? The two laundry women kept gossiping throughout the whole afternoon. Kiona had to endure this jeering in silence. Yet she tried her best, cleaning her laundry without letting herself be destabilized. The proximity made the task all the more difficult because she could not stop herself from hearing them and be dismayed by those repeated attacks. In spite of everything, the princess focused on her labor and analyzed the actions of the other retainers out of the corner of her eye to ensure that she was working properly. There was no way she would give satisfaction to the ones criticizing her, and she fully intended to prove that she would not let them have any hold over her, that she knew how to handle things. Her diligence did not elude the person standing next to her, a young washerwoman of her age who had a blonde braid and soft eyes. Friend? As Kiona was finishing wringing out her sheets, the two gossipers began to discredit her once again. With such a look, her laundry's unlikely to be very clean. I bet it's gonna have the same repulsive smell as her rags. Who would want to marry such a terrible housewife? While the two accomplices were giggling, each one more so than the other, the retainer standing next to the princess suddenly turned around to intervene. Because you're both so much better than her, is that it? Donkey Skin is already done with her baskets. The same cannot be said of everyone. As they were too busy snickering, the two laundry women had indeed fallen behind. The scathing retort made them turn as red as a beetroot. They did not appreciate to be criticized on what was their pride and joy. This is not comparable. We have more laundry than her. It's normal for us to take longer. At least we don't do rushed work. Oh yeah? Yet when taking a closer look, you can see stains in your tablecloth. Now, if that isn't rushed work, I don't know what is. Are you looking for trouble? That's right, what's your problem? I'm simply pointing out that Donkey Skin's laundry is cleaner than yours for now. Reprimanding her is all fine and well, provided you can do better. The two servants fell silent, ashamed. Yeah, get out of here. Relieved to be temporarily freed of their derogatory remarks, Kiona rewarded her benefactress with a grateful smile. When she had finished, she grabbed her baskets and walked away. No sooner had she taken a few steps that she heard the young washerwoman call her. Donkey Skin, wait! If you do that, you might not get the ending you want, but you can always start over and skip red text. That's true, exactly. And I kind of, I'm always just like, I just want to test everything out. Yes? I wanted to tell you that you're doing a pretty good job for your first time. Keep it up and pay no mind to their comments. Thank you. The princess walked down the corridors with a lighter heart. Her comrades' congratulations had lifted her spirits. She appreciated them all the more, so that the young woman had spoken out loud in front of all the other laundrywomen. Today had not been an easy day, but at least she was not completely alone. Comforted, Kiona headed for the common room. Oh, okay. Last time we went to the courtyard, but they're not letting us do that this time. Let's go to the hallways. What was that? Dawn and dusk. Resolved to take her mind off things, the young woman wandered through the stone corridors that were similar in all aspects to the ones of her own dwelling. Torn by a hint of nostalgia, she clambered over one of the ledges and leaned against a pillar to admire the blazing sky, the so peaceful landscape. I was thinking that the castle work was so, well done that it would have been such a shame to have only had it appear for, the brief amount of time we were in the original castle. So it's nice to see it come again in this castle. As nothing lasts forever, Echo soon came to disrupt her tranquility. Intrigued, Kiona had her head out of the column to inspect her surroundings. Oh, these are different. Okay. Not them again. It's different people. The voices belonged to two servants who were posted down the hallway. They were visibly having a conversation and paid no attention to her presence. Since the stone vault amplified sound, she could not help but listening to them despite herself, and instinctively kept a low profile so they would not notice her. The rumors. I spent too much time researching medieval stuff, so you get to know all of it. Amazing. Incredible. I love, learning about medieval stuff through, fun literature. Which is why I read, I read 2 of the Pillars of the Earth books. I gave up on the 3rd one because that was, Tudor period, and I don't care about Tudor period. I like it when it's, a little bit older. You're telling me a nun came directly in the castle's courtyard to sell goods? What did she look like? You've got me stumped. All nuns dress the same. Not a single lock of hair stuck out of her headdress. I could barely glimpse her face. I wouldn't be able to recognize her even if you were to introduce her to me. Do you seem rather old? Rather young? Rather young, I think. I bet my life on the fact that it was Madeline. Poor girl, she saddens me. What happened to her? Nobody told you? She's from the church on the other side of the forest. You can see her from time to time. It has to be said, her story is quite heartbreaking. Oh my god, please tell me. Who is Madeline? A few years ago, the church was comprised of many nuns, and it thrived. One day, a sick traveler knocked on their door. He was, of course, taken in, and the sisters did all they could to cure him, in vain. Unfortunately, the stranger carried the plague. Oh no. Rapidly, all the others who had approached him found themselves infected, and they died one after the other. How dreadful! The plague took them all, every single one of them, save for Madeline. She is without a doubt protected by God's will. What's even more tragic is that she had to bury the horribly mutilated bodies of the nuns. She had survived, but at what cost? She now lives completely alone. It is said the church is cursed. People no longer dare come near it. Wow, what the fuck? I guess things like that were quite common, though. She must be in an incredibly precarious situation then. Too right. I really wonder what's going to become of her. When I catch sight of her in town, I feel as if I was reassured. It means that she's still alive and well. And yet, I have no illusion as to her future. Unless a miracle happens, she's not going to hold for much longer. Let's stay optimistic for her sake. A new traveler might one day come to take her shelter in the church, and eventually decide to stay to keep her company. Sometimes it doesn't take that much to turn a desperate situation around. You must be right. If Madeline is truly protected by God, she will overcome this ordeal. While the two servants were walking away, Kiona took the opportunity to come out of hiding and slipped away in the opposite direction. It's a reference to another visual novel from one of your deaf friends. Wait, really? What is it a reference to? Which one? Ruth had been right. Going for a walk in the hallways did allow her to obtain interesting information. Solitary Nun's tragic story had moved the young woman. I was thinking that was such a specific story that it's either from a fairy tale or from like some kind of specific situation that's going to come back or something like that. Once on a Windswept Night by Ebby May. Let me just check that. Oh. Oh, I've not heard of this one, actually. Oh no. It doesn't seem like it ended in a very happy way, though, from the way the story started. Hopefully that's how the game starts and not how it ends. Perhaps there were lessons to be learned from this. God sometimes likes to create misfortunes on a mortal's path to test them. Only an unshakable faith can prevail over darkness and expose true virtue. The princess was now convinced that she too was being put to the test by God. I must not waver. Never again. That's right, Kiona. I love the little moments that we're outside and taking care of the geese. The next day, Kiona went to pasture with her poultry, as she did every morning. As she did every morning, she settled down under a tree to watch the geese, while letting her imagination run free. That day, her mind turned to the fairy Medea. I wonder if my godmother is watching over me as I speak. Probably. I mean, she's kind of stuck on Earth. I wouldn't be surprised. If only she were here, I could ask her to spy on the prince and report all his comings and goings. I should probably have ordered her to give me a magic mirror when I had the chance. The princess shrugged. It may be better that way after all. I do not know if the favors that the fairy grants are limited or not. What if there were only 3, as genies do? It would be quite careless of me to waste them. Another thing I should ask her the next time I see her. Despite everything, Kiona had to admit that she was dying to observe her lover. It had been several days since she had arrived at the castle, and had been performing the work of a scullery maid with the sole aim of seducing him, yet she had barely been able to catch a glimpse of him since then. Her efforts were certainly not rewarded as highly as she had expected. Patience, girl, patience. An opportunity will eventually arise. Can't you just, like, summon the fairy and do what you did before? Like, create a scenario in which you can meet him while you're dressed up. Satisfied, the princess stood up and brought back the animals, filled with the determination. Did Medea say whether we can request unlimited wishes or not? So, Medea didn't specify it. As far as we're aware, we can make as many wishes as we can as long as they are small wishes and don't require too much energy or time changing. Which is funny because we have been requesting time changes like 3 times already. But don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Once she had gobbled her noon snack. Okay, here we go. Let's go. I'm doing terrible right now because I'm trying to see all 3 different situations when I should just be focusing on one. The heiress had decided to take care of the castle's upkeep. She had heard it was a chore that other retainers were reluctant to do. She had hoped that volunteering for it would help her gain some sympathy. To Kiona, it was a token of goodwill, her way to show Beth that she had been right to employ her. Considering the life of luxury she had always lived, it could not hurt to harden her a bit. She'd always considered she was lacking courage. Consequently, it was the perfect opportunity to prove to herself that she was able to stretch her limits. At least, that was what she was thinking as she was polishing the corridor stone floor. Sweeping such a vast surface with a branch was taking her forever. She was quickly noticed how much of a constraint the stairs represented. Oh god. Cleaning stairs. Nightmare. Yet she was not done. Far from it. Once dust got out of the way, she still had to scrub the paving stones with soap made with lard and rinse them by transporting buckets of water. The task was so exhausting that it is no wonder the retainers considered it a thankless job. For several long minutes, Kiona cursed both in her head and out loud. What was I thinking when I volunteered? I should have never agreed to do this chore. Cleaning the castle had another drawback she had not anticipated. It was an incredibly solitary activity. Whereas working in the kitchen or at the washing place would have guaranteed some companionship, the upkeep of the hallways and stairs did not allow any real contact. Individuals were coming and going at every turn, but no one truly stopped, even less so to talk to her. Naturally, the princess was not the only person assigned to do the sweeping and scrubbing, but all the retainers had been divided into different areas, and thus hardly ran into each other. That makes sense for a castle this big. Fiona realized it was much more difficult to retain her determination without comrades around, and she was missing Fleur's zeal all the more in this moment of emptiness. While the young woman was vigorously scrubbing some especially resistant food residues that had been spilled on the floor, 3 servants came into her field of vision. Dear me, with that I've lost all my money. I can't even afford to buy marzipan, and here I was, already licking my lips at the idea. We did warn you to be suspicious of this conjurer. He looked shady. And it's well known that shell games are frauds. Still, I never heard of that before. The game seemed quite innocent at first. Really? You can find those everywhere. The one who hides the bean under the shells always cheats. You can only lose your coins. Young Valets casually passed Kiona. It was at that exact moment she found they'd put their dirty boots right on the place she had just washed. The stones were now covered with mud. Get them out of here! The fact that her hard work was being reduced to nothing made her see red. Moments after, she got up, straight as a ramrod, and collared them. You there! The 3 men turned around, astonished. This conspicuous ignorance on their face finished grating on the princess's nerves. I have just barely finished this corner, and you've already made it all mucky. You could at least pay attention to where you are putting your filthy foot. Dirty boots, to the death! To the stocks with them! Kiona was not used to losing her temper. It was a behavior unworthy of an heiress to the throne. Therefore, she was surprised to have raised her voice. Incredible. Since every task has its own mini storyline, you can always read all intros and just go back to choose one you like the most. You're the boss. That's true. It's true. We'll have a chance to see everything at some point. Unfortunately, her rant was first met with no reaction. And finally... who's that? What's her problem? No need to yell like that, miss. What a nasty attitude. As nasty as her face! Quite ironic for somebody supposed to wipe the floor. Come on, let's ignore the lunatic. The servants shrugged and moved away while laughing. The young woman's utter despair as she had expected proper apologies. Scolding them had been useless. Worse still, they had humiliated her because she had unnecessarily lost her temper. I can't believe this. I can't believe this. Although she had to admit, yelling did her good in the heat of the moment. Kiona was now in a pitiful mood. She continued working in a rather morose atmosphere, and she was exhausted and disgruntled when she disappeared in her attic room. That was not worth it. It seems like the route to find the prince is just not worth it. She needed to lie down, rest, catch her breath, and get a grip on herself. This is giving little princess energy. It's me, Princess Coco. Would I be better or worse than Kiona? I can honestly not tell you if I could. Probably worse, to be honest. I can judge Kiona for her arrogant thoughts and behaviors, but I would probably be 10 times worse. Alright, I'll keep that there for now until Princess Coco is done. See, I could probably have just like done a little doodle during a break. However, I decided not to. Maybe next week I'll have a princess sprite. Who knows? Who knows what the day can bring. Okay, let's continue. The defeat had been complete. Every muscle in her body seemed sore, and she felt mortified by the scene she had caused earlier with the valets. Surely they would spread rumors throughout the castle, and everyone would laugh at her. Oh. No, I think I would get so pissed off if that happened. Why? Why did I choose the hardest task? Cleaning the corridors was wearying, depressing. It was too much for her. If only she could share that chore with a single comrade. If only she could hold on a little longer. I am foolish. Here is where my pride leads, causing me harm to no good purpose. The young woman sighed. She had wished to prove something to herself, but she had already forgotten what. Should she carry on in spite of everything? Was she brave enough to do that? Fluttering around, complete no storyline! It's true. That's my bad. It's true. I knew what I was getting into by not focusing on one thing. Never ever try and put your stats in everything. Let's go to the common room. Let's see what people are saying about us. Worn out by all the hard work she had accomplished that day, Kiona decided to be reasonable and rest in her bedroom while waiting for dinner. Oops. Lying down on her straw mattress was like liberation. Her back, that had made her suffer so much since the second half of the afternoon, suddenly seemed relieved, and she chose to stay in that position to regain some strength. Still breathless after having climbed the stairs, the young woman put a shaky hand on her aching head. Since she had nothing to do until mealtime, she gazed at the ceiling of her attic room and released her chained thoughts. As she was analyzing this ordinary room down to every last detail, Yona felt a familiar likeness. It reminds me of Princess Rosette's story. Is that the one with her brothers? Was it that one? Despite her noble lineage, she's sent to the countryside to live with a nurse and is only allowed to come back for her sister's birthday. But her unkind parents pay no attention to her and make her sleep in the attic. Oh wait, no, this was, go back. Oh no, it was this one. Oh, it's very confusing. Oh, okay, this is a different one. Never mind. It's like, that's not the same story. Oh, this could be me. Wait, I think this is the story. History of Princess Rosette is part of the old French fairy tales by Countess of Ségur, 1857. The eponymous heroine, not to be confused with Madame de Aulnoy, is a princess sent to a farm by her parents shortly after her birth because her two elder sisters, Orangine and Rosette, are jealous that she has a fairy godmother. Wow. They do not concern themselves with her until her 15th birthday, when she is invited to attend great festivities in honor of her sisters. Although she is delighted to finally be able to meet her family, Rosette is neglected once she arrives and lodged in the attic. Worse still, she draws the attention of all the guests, including King Charming, because of her kindness and the magnificent clothes given to her by the fairy, which drives the royal family absolutely furious. Their hatred is such that they decide to get rid of her during the festivities, but the fairy Poissant is watching over her protege and helps her avoid the traps in her way. Rosette even keeps getting closer to King Charming, who only has eyes for her and ends up proposing to her. What the princess does not know is that her godmother, while orchestrating her happiness, has doomed the royal family to eternal torment to make them pay for their murder attempt. Fairies are truly dangerous creatures. Yes, they certainly are. And this is why I love fairies. This could be me. A dreamy smile lit up her face. I know. Let us rewrite the story. I am Princess Rosette, unfairly banned from the castle, and I am lodged in my tiny little attic room for the duration of the festivities. This is giving very Little Princess vibes, actually. Fortunately, my godmother, the fairy Poissant, has planned everything. Thanks to her magic spells, I will go to the ball, dressed like a shiny star. My sisters will be insanely jealous to see me so pretty, to see me so amiable. I have everything they will never have. I will talk with so much grace and kindness that King Charming will not let me out of his sight all night. Fiona exulted in the solitude of her room. This is how I wished my first meeting with Griselde would unfold. He is in the anonymous crowd, gallantly rejecting some courtesans. Everyone is talking and laughing loudly, when suddenly I enter the room and everything comes to a halt. Aristocrats are dazzled by the sumptuousness of my adornment. They are admiring me, and I can finally shine. As for Griselde, he only sees me. Just like Charming, he protects me in the face of all opposition. He wants to connect with his life with mine. See you tomorrow, fair princess. Or should I say, see you forever. Oh, girly. In the ideal world she had built for herself, everything was made to please her. She was the center of the universe, the star around which the other characters revolved. They had no motivation of their own, no utility except serving the story she had created to her glory. The retainers were no longer human beings, but simply secondary characters, mere auxiliaries. Fiona was a heroine, and the present was distorting itself to make her happy. A present that was occurring inside her head at the very least. In the far less pleasant reality of the simple attic, the young woman was watching time go by while daydreaming. Lost in her thoughts, the princess forgot her misfortunes for a moment, and that was all that mattered. Fiona was only just getting accustomed to her new environment when the great tournament organized by Griselde started. Heralds appeared in the entire city to announce the event, and in the preceding days, knights from all over the country would steadily flood in. Servants were bustling about 100 times more than usual, so that everything would be ready in time, Earth even more so than anyone else, and the kitchens would not empty. In the midst of the mess, the princess fully understood why she had been hired. There was so much to do that she no longer had time to rest. Oh no, what is this? Oh, I saw the plants and I immediately thought, oh god, it's a minigame. Some of the citizens contributed to the effort as, among other things, grandstands had to be erected in the field to accommodate the nobles who were seeking entertainment. To her great relief, the young Moor was allowed to attend the tournament, although it was among the people and not in the grandstands. The tournament was the most appreciated event of the region, and all the residents had rushed to the fields to catch sight of the various trials knights were engaging in. A minigame trauma. The knights were proudly parading to the sound of the trumpets, eager to fight. Some were wearing a scarf or a veil that had been given to them by a lady, and for a moment, Kiona wondered if her lover was going to participate for the sake of another woman. This is like in all the webtoons I've read. They always like have a big tournament and they have to have like a little attachment or adornment from like the lady that they like. However, her fears were quickly dispersed, for none other than Lord Griseld appeared, wearing a shining armor. As soon as he had stepped forward, the signal was given and the trials came one after another. Trials during which the beloved prince distinguished himself. There was no joust during which he did not fiercely strike his opponent, during which he did not make them yield, during which he did not spill blood. Like a lion rushing to his prey, he swooped down, without expressing any mercy, zealously returning every blow he received. More than once, he challenged his foe, humiliated them even, but his arrogance was quite unlike his talent for combat. The princess was trembling at the thought that he could be killed, as it was unfortunately common during jousts to be the witness of rather bloody outcomes. Dead and wounded casualties there were. Shields were shattering into pieces, spears were piercing through helmets, crimson jets were spurting towards the audience, to everyone's exclamation, "Oh my god, Jesus Christ!" Yet Prince Griseld emerged victorious each and every time. Tournaments such as this one turned out to be the perfect pastime for glory-seeking nobles like himself. Jesus Christ, this is horrible! The Lord was becoming so bored in his castle that he only found refuge in violence, whether it was hunting or jousting. It did not matter to him as long as he could find his slaughter adrenaline, the ecstasy provided by delivering the fatal blow. Human beings or animals. He only cared for being the best and being cheered by the crowd. His bellicosity made him the most formidable knight that day. Griseld was cutting to shreds all those who had dared to face him, and the crowd was clapping. Lost in the middle of all those applauses, Kiona felt her heart pounding. She found her lover so brave, so valiant, that she had become all the more determined to marry him. Kiona, no! That night in her room, the young woman could not sleep. Thrilled by this emotionally charged day, she was dreaming wide awake of Prince Griseld, imagining how they would be together. He was so handsome, so good-looking, that she was considering her wedding to be a love match, a miracle at that time. Her daydreams, inspired by courtly literature, made her see a man more than willing to worship her. He was wealthy, owned a sumptuous castle, and very good cooks, and he was heroic. She was already imagining a similar tournament where she would take her place at the best spot in the grandstands, as Griseld would go to fight with her veil, a token of his allegiance, and win all the honors. He injures kill people. That's hot, Kiona. She's just into that kind of stuff. And I mean, I can't judge her. I can, but but it's fine. He would certainly treat her as a queen and would be ready to die for her. Was there only a better match? I don't know. This fantasy consumed the young woman in the days that followed. She could only think about approaching the prince. In her eyes, being around him on a regular basis was a benefit that she intended to put to good use. When one of the servants fell sick, she immediately wanted to seize that fortuitous opportunity. Like, yes, they're about to die, thank goodness. Thus, she paid her mentor a visit. Beth, would you happen to have a moment? Of course, Donkey Skin, what is it? You seem pensive. I have heard that Isore has a fever and is unable to serve the Lord. Is that true? Absolutely. I even have to find someone to replace her. I would like to volunteer to carry out this task. The head chef raised her eyebrows. You? Well, I don't really have any objection, but I have trouble understanding the eagerness. It is just that I would really like to be able to meet Prince Griseld. I was thinking if I were to bring his food, I would finally have the opportunity to see him firsthand. Very well, I will grant you this wish, you furry little animal. You will serve the prince at noon today. There is a condition. You will have to listen very carefully to my instructions in order to not blunder. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. I will not fail to follow your orders. Overjoyed, Kiona prepared for her first banquet as a retainer. Oh my god, my crown has been made! Thank you, Flint. You have done me a great honor. Amazing. Okay, I'm officially a queen. Overjoyed, Kiona prepared for her first banquet as a retainer. Noble meals are very codified. That's why you have to memorize what I'm going to say. The beginning of lunch is always announced by a horn. Guests then place themselves around the table according to their rank, and valets have to provide them something to wash their hands. That will be your first action, understood? Don't forget you'll have to repeat the operation between each sequence. Sequence? I'm coming to it. Once you've done that, there will be a prayer of blessing, and a cupbearer is going to taste all the dishes. Oh yes, the cupbearer is a trustworthy person who verifies that there is no poison in the food, correct? Exactly. The meal is punctuated by several sequences. In other words, series of dishes. Today, there will be 4 sequences in total. We usually start with an appetizer consisting of wine, toasted bread, and morsels. For the second one, I have planned a variety of soups. The third sequence's content essentially depends on the day of the week. Depending on whether it is fasting day or not, the church imposes to refrain from consuming meat on Wednesdays, Fridays, Saturdays, and during Lent. On fasting days, we present fish to the monarch. Today is a day with meat. There will be numerous pieces of roasted meat. The fourth sequence will be comprised of desserts, just as sweet as savory. Oh god, do I have to remember all of this? The meal will then end with a sweet spice wine that aids digestion, followed by the grace, the closing prayer. I see. Your role is to bring the dishes from the kitchen to the banquet hall, but also to ensure the guests can wash their hands between each sequence. Understood? Okay. Yes, madam. Excited, Kiona observed the other retainers and imitated them as best as she could to be sure that she was behaving properly. A stack of plates in her arms, she traversed the castle very focused so she will not lose her balance. Oh my god. When she reached the banquet hall, all the guests were already sitting. As she was placing the dishes on the table, she gave the prince, who was figuring prominently, a sidelong look. I must make sure to serve him next time. No sooner had she returned to the kitchens than she whispered to Berth. The guests can serve themselves in the plate that is closest to them, do they not? Which dish is going to be placed in front of the lord? By way of reply, the cook absent-mindedly pointed out, oh, that one. Perfect. Wait, don't take it right away. Each sequence is interspersed with different performances. Jugglers, musicians, dancers, poets, or minstrels. You need to wait until the end of the intermission before sending the rest of the meal. Overflowing with impatience, the young woman waited for the exact moment when she could return to the banquet hall. Minutes seemed interminable until, at last, someone signaled to her that she could go. Without any more hesitation, she rushed into the corridor to be the first one to arrive. In her donkey skin, no less! She presented his plate to the prince with all the grace she was capable of. Your soup, my lord. He did not even look at her. I hope it will be to your liking. Right. Ah! Worse still, Griselda coldly sent her back with an annoyed hand gesture. The princess could not help feeling a bit disenchanted. As she was lowering her eyes, hurt by his disregard, a knight sitting next to him stopped her. Young lady, could you hold the tablecloth for me? I would like to wipe my mouth clean. Right away, sir. Fiona finished her service with a miserable look on her face. Once the haste had settled, the retainers scattered to attend to their businesses. Only the young woman remained, sitting on a stool, alone in the empty kitchen. Berth noticed it and did not have the heart to leave her like this. "Are you sad, Donkey Skin?" "A little, I admit. I was so thrilled to meet Prince Griselda, and he did not even look at me when I spoke to him." The cook stood next to her protégée and patted her on the back to comfort her. "It's unfortunately to be expected, girl." I remember there was a post on Instagram about, like, the first time a woman kind of realized the distance between the rich and, like, you know, the normal folk. And it was when she was, like, she worked as, like, a, wedding gown sort of, like, you know, person, like, you know, someone that does all the fittings and things. And she was talking about, like, this lady who used to come by very frequently to get, like, her dress fitted and everything. And one day, her mother-in-law came with her, and it was on that day that this lady was, like, incredibly nervous and, like, very embarrassed to, like, be, you know, naked or, like, you know, bare clothes around her. And, you know, the person that was making this post was just like, so I went to, like, my manager, and I was like, "She's being so weird today. Like, she's never this timid or uncomfortable in, like, her innerwear and everything." And the manager was like, "Why would she be uncomfortable around furniture?" Which is such a crazy thing to say, but it's like, that is how the rich lady viewed them. It's like, they're nothing but furniture. They're nothing important. You know, they're not real people to her. I know, it wasn't that awful. And I know the manager didn't mean anything by it, because in her head, like, she's in the same position as, like, this lady. But wow, that literally gut punched me. Like, oh my god. And that was the first time she really noticed, like, the disparity between them. Like, I guess she would make jokes with this lady all the time, but it wasn't until that moment that she realized, oh my god, she never really saw me as a person. That's crazy. I spaced out after the tea break, and that woke me up. Class disparity wakes everyone up. Wake up, sheeple! We need to take down the rich. This is why. I'm joking, but it is wild. I do not frequently speak to the rich, so I've never really had to deal with that, but it must be crazy for people who have to work with them frequently. I've been awake for a long while. I heard mother-in-law and thought, when did Coco get married? Tomorrow's a wedding. You're all invited. Please come and bring gifts. Bring many wedding gifts. Oh, it was unfortunately to be expected, girl. Do not forget that he is our lord, the most important person in town. He is used to being served and doesn't take interest in his servants. But I am only a poor scullery maid in his eyes. To capture his attention, you wouldn't have needed to be a princess. If you had the appropriate status for the kind of banquet, you would have been sitting at his table as a guest. You wouldn't have been the one who brings the wine and takes back the plates. Still, I am disappointed. I expected better of a monarch. You're still young, eh? The crush will pass. You're not the only servant who secretly yearns after Prince Griselda. Just remember that society assigned specific roles to every one of us, and that classes don't mix. Princes marry princesses. See you there, you will know who I am. I will come in a white dress! Phaeton! Phaeton, there will be death to you. Disparity for me is when my ex was able to wave off cops when pulled over because of their family had reputation. I was like, oh, they're that kind of rich. Yikes. That is like a specific type of rich for sure. Birth girl, are you also gunning after him? I don't think she is. I think she's just probably used to a lot of, like, young ladies who are under her care who are trying to. You still have their number? Phaeton, please, it will not end well for you. It It will not end well. You figure it out. So you figured it out. Absolutely not. I pay way too much attention to those surrounding me to miss the clues of a budding romance. Don't look so glum, eh? The prince will not look at you, but I'm sure a fine lad with a big heart will notice you. And you will see the happiness is not necessarily about social climbing, just finding your place in the world. Bertha is such a sweet lady. I love her. In low spirits, the young Moor let herself be comforted by Bertha without expressing any objection. Obviously, she could not retort that she was indeed a princess, and that Griselda should have noticed it. That night, Kiona could only grumble on her mattress, looking for 1,000 excuses for her lover's coldness. Perhaps he was having a bad day. Perhaps he was too focused on what his interlocutor was saying. Perhaps he was tired because of the tournament. One of those reasons most likely put him in a bad mood. But I know he does not usually behave like that. He usually is so charming because you're used to seeing him from a position where you... Oh, wait, this is so familiar to another situation. When was this... Wait, what game was this? What show was this? Where a character was saying something like, he always treats me so well, and that's only because you are in royal garments or something. Oh my god. So, this is so weird. This is definitely from, like, that was definitely a line from something. I got great friends, now that's all I need. It's so much better. Hell yeah. In the end, it's always better to have, I feel like, you know, relationships are always a bonus to your life, and that's how they should be. And if a bad relationship steps in, it should always be something where you can fall back on yourself and also, like, other people that care about you. I think it's more dangerous when you only have a relationship with someone and they're not good and then you don't have anything to fall back to. That can be a lot worse. So it's definitely something to really, like, appreciate when, you know, you are able to kind of move past all of that stuff. And it's a difficult kind of thing to do. So I'm really glad that you're doing much better, Flint. Especially from, like, the sounds of them. It was bad. I learned lessons and what I need. It's true. Although, like, lessons like that are things that no one really should have to learn. But, you know, it's good that you've been able to move past all of it. Okay. He's so charming. Girl. Girly. You know what? She's not really been in a relationship. I can't judge her. Like, it's hard to figure out when someone is not a great person when you have, like, these... We missed one of them! Oh, wait, that makes sense. That makes sense, actually. Because we have a lot of choices here. Could this have happened in Alchemy of Souls at some point? No, I don't think it was Alchemy of Souls. It was definitely, like, a TV show or something. But I don't know. Because even in Alchemy of Souls, I think the Crown Prince is the only one I could think of who treats someone differently in different clothing. But even then, he was so much nicer to her when she was, like, when she was Mudok versus when she was, like, Naksu, the princess. You know? Like, he was actually much nicer to her when she was a servant. Oh, Crown Prince, I love him so much. Guys, don't make me think of Crown Prince. Don't do this to me. I can't think about him. He is the love of my life. He doesn't know it, but... Yeah, he called her filthy Mudok, but it was out of love. It's probably similar to how Berth calls Kiona a furry little friend out of love. What a nickname. The young woman's distress did not stay unpunished for long. Soon after, great festivities were announced. It was said everywhere that the prince was organizing 3 days of ball for which he was inviting the most beautiful woman of the kingdom. That's explained in the fairy tale you just unlocked, actually. Wait, really? Oh, let's open it. All kinds of fur Lehrer in German, a tale told by the Grimm brothers in children's and household tales. It happens to be another variation of Donkey Skin, which combines several elements from Perrault's version and the Turkey Keeper. It is crazy. I get why you put so much of these in the story, because it's crazy how much overlap these stories had. Time again, the princess flees her father's incestuous urges and is hid in the kitchens of a prince after being found in the forest by hunters. Large celebrations are held in the castle sometime later, and she discreetly attends them, each time dressed with one of her 3 magical garments. See, that's what I thought she was going to do. I thought we were going to wait until the ball and then dress up and then get his attention. She makes a strong impression on the prince as she dances with him, before vanishing again to put her fur coat back. On her return, the cook asks her to prepare a soup for the king, and she takes advantage of that to drop a precious object in the soup. Each night, she is summoned to explain where the object comes from, but she says nothing. Seeing how much the prince loves her soup, the cook gracefully lets her assume this responsibility. This little game continues until the last night. The monarch has ordered the dance to last as long as possible and puts a ring on one of her fingers without her even noticing. Thus, when she is summoned once again to explain the presence of a precious object in the soup, he recognizes the ring and grabs her hand, which makes the fur coat fall. That was really easy. Upon discovering her true appearance, the prince immediately asks her to marry him. The cook in that tale calls the princess furry little animal, hence why I kept the nickname. Aw, that's cute. Interesting. So that's another version of Donkey Skin then. Widely excited, Kiona intended to do everything she could to sneak in and get even with Griselda. Ooh, but we didn't up our relationship with him that much, so I don't know how this is gonna go. Naturally, the news revived the excitement that had taken hold of the city during the tournament, and the retainers worked even harder to make the most splendid celebration ever. In that climate of restlessness, the young Moor was entrusted with more and more important tasks. That is how, on the day of the first ball, she was tasked with bringing refreshments to Grisel's group, who was coming back from hunting. Although it was still morning, the rays of sunshine were already hitting hard, and his entourage was boiling. Kiona had just returned from pastures when she was entrusted with the task, which puzzled her. Both delighted and embarrassed, she grasped the heavy tray that was handed to her and hastened through the castle's corridors. The sound of hunting horn was already resonating under the archways, irrefutable proof that the horsemen were lining up in the courtyard. I must hurry. I must not keep them waiting. Oh, girl. The princess accelerated, distraught at the idea that she could disappoint the prince. She arrived just as the men were dismounting. It is not too late yet. She immediately put her tray on a barrel and started filling a gold cup with fresh hippocras. Naturally, the lord had to be served first. Therefore, she hurried to bring it to him. Oh no. Getting ahead of herself, Kiona forgot the skin she wore was too long to allow that kind of movement, and she stumbled on one of the courtyard's cobblestones. Oh no. She fell flat on her face, instantly spilling the sacred beverage. Griselda squires, who had witnessed the scene, mockingly burst out laughing. Look at this girl, who does not even know how to serve a drink. What a piece of work, this servant. Count on her to carry out the simplest tasks with clumsiness. Raised in her fall, the young woman laboriously recovered. The noble's jeerings was wounding her in her princess pride, where it hurt the most, and she had to bit her lip to avoid responding. A silhouette then approached, and upon raising her eyes, she recognized her beloved. Her face immediately lit up. A man as kind as him could only defend her against those oaths. Oh no! She did realize that something was not quite right because of his stern and hard expression, but she did not expect to hear this. Such a fool. You claim to be your lord's vassal. Are you ever going to stand up? Kiona could only mutter, phased.
1,000 apologies, my lord. I will pour you a new drink at once.
How do you plan to make amends for your foolish act? Wasting your lord's wine is inexcusable, scullery maid. So this is how you obey. I know a punishment worthy of your incompetence.
Translating words into actions, Griselda viciously kicked the young woman who was still on the ground. Yikes! As she was paralyzed by surprise, unable to defend herself, he copiously vented his anger, not hesitating to spit on her, and hit her with his heels. And this even though he had kept his spurs. No! The metal gear was pressed into her chest, forcing a cry of pain out of her as the horsemen were laughing heartily at her misfortune. Once the prince had finally calmed down, he forced her to hand refreshments out to his whole group. He had no choice but to comply, with shaking hands. What a gentleman! Wow, what a prince. After a few minutes, the men walked away, leaving her alone and deeply shocked. Not knowing how to react to what had happened, Kiona brought back the tray to the kitchen and went to sit down beside a pillar with an empty stare. She could not comprehend, she could not find any meaning to this aberration. Where do I find a guy like this? Goals, for real. How could such a gentle prince abuse her that way? Should he not have whispered to her that it was all right and have reprimanded his horsemen for daring to make fun of her? Little by little, the smiling image she had of him when they had exchanged gallantries by the lake was fading away, replaced by the face, twisting with rage, that had seen leaning over her. No, this is not possible. I cannot believe this is the same person. The real Griselda would have never done anything to hurt me. He swore eternal love to me. No, Kiona, don't be sad. You'll find a gentle prince who dresses much better and doesn't kick you with boots. Maybe he should dress up in the fineries of her dresses. Kiona used all her strength to hold the tears that were trying to slip out of her aching eyes. She should not be showing such vulnerable parts of herself. Not now. Suddenly, a very real voice interrupted her lamentations. Donkey skin? The young woman jumped upon discovering her benefactress at her side. Earth, what are you doing here? I saw you earlier. You didn't look so good. I tried to call you, but you didn't reply, so I got worried. Are you alright? Kiona hesitated. She very much wanted to tell Beth about her misfortunes, to find some comfort in her, but the humiliation was still too unfading, too crushing. All she desired was that the instant was to forget, to move on. She was not ready to swallow the terrible truths hidden behind the palace's adornments yet. Nothing too serious. I am just a bit tired. I feel weak and feverish. Perhaps... Am I simply sick? If you're coming down with something, you absolutely should rest. Exceptionally, you're allowed to leave early, so eat and go to sleep. Oh, Berth! I'm gonna cry. Thank you so much, Beth. Don't mention it. Regain your strength and quickly get better. Princess was thus reported sick, and allowed to return to her room, which was quite convenient. Once she was sure she was alone, she exclaimed, I swear on my own life that I will eventually make Lord Griselda understand what my true value is. Maybe Kiona should marry Berth instead. Maybe. I don't know how much older Berthe is, though. Maybe Berthe should adopt her. But you know what? I am down for anything for Kiona, as long as she doesn't end up with, like, the worst person ever. Oh, I'll take a sip. Guys, there's something so special about lemon in your water. It's so refreshing. I don't even feel a little bit of congestion. I feel like the hydration has saved me, and maybe this is a sign I should hydrate more throughout the day. but I probably won't. So, you know what? Let's just forget about that. He did not recognize me earlier, for I was disguised as a servant, but I'm going to show him who I really am. Kiona, baby girl, do you want to marry someone like this? She was no longer letting depression overwhelm her. She was going to make the most of this opportunity to intrude on the ball. That night, the young woman prepared herself by washing her face, wiping her body, and doing her hair so she would look better. Then she slipped in a hallway that was not frequently occupied and hit the ground with a hazel rod she had in her possession. The magic chest appeared without delay, revealing the rich attires it was jealously guarding. How sweet it is to find yourself again. Oh, girly. Without further ado, Kiona donned the dress the color of time and headed for the hall where the ball was taking place. Ooh. Shoes that were danced to pieces. Another tale told by Grimm was the second volume of children's and household tales of shoes that were danced to pieces. Les souliers à bolossis in French. Introduces a strange mystery. Every night, 12... Oh my god, the 12 dancing princesses! Wait, this was from the... Wait, the Barbie movie was based on a fairy tale? I didn't know that! Oh my god, I love that movie. Guys. Every night, 12 princesses are locked up in their bedroom, yet their shoes are found completely worn out every morning. As if they have gone dancing. Mystified, the king promises his kingdom and the hand of one of his daughters to whoever who can uncover their secret, but nobody managed to until an ordinary soldier tries his luck. On the advice of an old lady, who gave him an invisible... Where are these old ladies getting invisibility cloaks from? He pretends to drink the wine offered by the princesses and discreetly follows them through a secret passageway. That is how he discovers that they are going to an underground kingdom every night to have fun, hence the condition of their shoes. There's a Barbie movie based around the tale, unexpected. Yeah, it's called The 12 Dancing Princesses. It's a lot different though, because the person that's locked them up is the Duchess Rowena, who is a sister, I think, of the king. And their mother is dead. The king loves them and like lets them kind of do whatever they want. But when the Duchess Rowena comes in, she like slowly starts to poison the king, and her goal is to obviously like dethrone him and become the new queen. And during this, she locks up the princesses and doesn't let them do any dancing or any fun. And then they discover, obviously it's a Barbie movie, so they dance around their room and discover a secret like passageway to this magical land where they can dance as much as they want because they love dancing. And every night their shoes come back destroyed. And the shoe cobbler, who is of course the love interest in the movie, fixes up their shoes, and every day he's like, where the heck are they going? But he doesn't really care too much because he's just like in love. And one of these days, the Duchess Rowena breaks the tiles and locks them into this magic land, and then the cobbler comes and saves them, and there we go. The antagonist has to be a woman. Got it. Yes, unfortunately. I think... Ooh. There's quite a mix, actually, now that I think about it. I think, the first Barbie movie was... The antagonist was, the Rat King, because it was Nutcracker. They're all, most of the original ones are based on fairy tales, so... It's interesting what they decide to change. And then there's, Gothel, who's the other lady. And then, obviously, Swan Lake, it's, the evil guy, I forget his name. And Pegasus, though, is one of their first original stories. And that was a fun one. The antagonist in that is this, incel old man who wants to marry, the main character and tries to marry her sister. He is horrendous, and he has, 3 wives, and, it ends in a really satisfying way where they, save the main character and then, make his life miserable. So I think that's one of the few ones where they changed it from a man to a woman being the antagonist. But usually I think they're quite good about making the women not evil. Well, that being said, there are a lot of antagonistic women in the movies too. Anyway, I love that movie. It's a fun movie. Everyone let her by, including guards and retainers, for nobody recognized her. I don't think I've ever watched a Barbie movie, so I'm taking notes. If you ever were to, I fully recommend Barbie Nutcracker. It's the first movie, and it's a beautiful movie. Considering it's like the first one they made, I think it is still gorgeous. The soundtrack is obviously amazing because it is Nutcracker, and it's just a lovely story. It's just a really like nice little cute movie. And all the Renaissance movies are nice. Like all of the ones that are based on fairy tales are really nice. And then Pegasus is just a fun movie. That one is just like unserious in every regard. But yeah, I do recommend Nutcracker. Also, it's got like a great like voice cast. It's got Tim Curry as a Rat King, and he is incredibly unserious in that role. She was indeed mistaken for a great princess, as she had regained her bearing and her confidence. All the guests present were astounded by the beauty of the lovely girl. There was not a single noble who was not enticed by her supreme charms and the magnificence of her attire. Griselda himself noticed her. "Ah, never has there been a more beautiful creature. I need to take her as my wife." Wow, he gave in so quick. The ball. The prince went to meet his graceful stranger, offered his hand, and danced with her. Secret Barbie movie expert. This is not even a secret. I will make this as loud as... Well, okay. I guess Barbie movie less a secret. Bratz, definitely not a secret at all. I am the Barbie and Bratz expert. So, come to me for any and all knowledge, especially on Dylan. He did not even want to dance with another woman, and always kept Kiona's hand close. Just like the story. He spent the evening courting her in the most pleasant way possible, and she slowly felt her heart yielding to the 1,000 gallant remarks he was making. The young Moor's plan seemed to be functioning perfectly. Her arrival had been successful, and Griselda only has eyes for her. It was almost too good to be true, but she could not help relishing the moment of glory she had aspired to for so long. In the bold arms of her beloved, all the sufferings she had endured since her exile were gradually vanishing. Forgotten her disastrous escape into the forest, forgotten the harsh farm labor, forgotten Fleur's betrayal, forgotten the long days of hard work within the castle, and forgotten the dread she had felt upon approaching death, and apparently forgotten the time that he had beat you up and like spit on your face and everything, which happened like earlier today. Even the cruel humiliations of that morning seemed more than insignificant. It must have been an error, a mishap, baby girl. In any case, it would never happen again. She was sure of it. Fiona was a princess, a great lady admired by all. At that very moment, the man her heart desired was bewitched by her beauty, becoming again the gentle and friendly being she had imagined. It was just a little oopsie. She could only be over the moon, intoxicated by this familiar yet ephemeral sensation. Definitely not an indication to his character. No, no, no. "Ah, how charming you are! Are you from this kingdom, mademoiselle? For I have never caught sight of a creature such as you at this court." "I am not from your states, my lord. In fact, I come from a distant land. You therefore must not be surprised if you have never seen me before." "And where are you from?" The young Moor was going to share the story of her exile with Griselda when she realized it was a perfect opportunity to innocently take revenge for the mistreatments she had received. Instead of mentioning her father's kingdom, she thought it best to give him a clue. "I am from the kingdom of Spur." Pfft. "Thank you, mademoiselle." There go the violins again. Kiona, I don't know if that was as clever as you thought it was, because I don't think he even thought about that for 2 seconds. "Would you do me the honor of dancing with me once more?" "With pleasure." Kiona. It was getting late, and the heiress was worried that Bertha, one of the servants, would notice her absence. Thus, she secretly decided not to stay for the whole festivities. Once the last dance was over, Kino bowed down before the prince and, as he was turning around, she disappeared so quickly that nobody knew where she had gone. Griselda sent the castle's guards to find her and questioned them, but no one had glimpsed the fugitive. And for good reason. She had sneaked outside, darkened her face and hands, put on her coat, and become donkey skin again. Thus, she went back to her small room at a slow pace, without any worry of being exposed. Once again that night, she closed her eyes while dreaming about her future wedding with the prince. She fell asleep with a pleased sigh. Wow. The next day, the entire palace was only talking about this beautiful stranger and the mark she had left on the monarch. I just noticed the tail is attached to the donkey skin outfit. While going to the common room, the young Moor overheard some retainers whispering. Oh my god, did you hear the news everyone is talking about? The ball, you mean? Of course! Our Lord Griselle has been asked to get married for months. Its natural as attraction to a woman would cause commotion. What's more, this maiden is rather mysterious, leaving right in the middle of a ball. We'd never seen anything like that before. It may have been a fairy taking the appearance of a noblewoman out of love for the prince. Her spell's magic eroding little by little, she would have fled for fear of him finding out who she really was. Let's be serious here, come on. Fairies don't mix with humans. Not that fairies don't exist, they just don't mix with humans. I like that that's just commonplace. Oh my god, hello, Boop. Boop, you missed a most terrifying humiliation that we have suffered. Also, I am a queen. Many new things to happen. Many laws to come into effect. Many executions to take place. We shall see. We shall see after I have deliberated on people's worth here. Kill the monarchs! No! Sir Boopadoop, you are to work for us. You are not to kill us. I will not have any words of such kind of revolts happening here. No coups to take place. So Kiona is still working in the castle. We have made a very good friend in Birth who is like taking care of us kind of as like the head cook. However, we're still really trying to marry Griselle, the prince. And upon trying to meet him, we made a mistake and fell over, and he decided to kick us with his like boots that had his horse spurs on, and then like spit on us and like say all kinds of mean things to us in front of his like squires. So we kind of got to see a lot of his true nature, when we're not dressed up as a princess. And Kiona was just like in tears. She was like miserable. And then she was like, there's a bull. I'm gonna dress up and show him that I am actually pretty cool. So, she's still very much enthralled by him, very much in this idea that it was just a mistake. Like, he just didn't know who I was. Because she's also got a lot of her own little, like, arrogance in terms of, like, being a royalty. So, what can I try and figure out, like, a way to get around it? But she's still very much on board with marrying him, despite that. Satisfied to have caused the sensation, now everyone's like, who is this beautiful lady that showed up and disappeared? Kiona went to execute her daily work while whistling with a light heart. The beatings in her chest surged when she was asked to bring the prince's food during lunch. Oh, girlie, no. If Griselle had ignored her the first time, she had no doubt he would now recognize her on the spot if she were to manifest herself. Thus, she committed to do it with enthusiasm, convinced it was her chance. This time, it was a small, intimate meal, a fact she perceived as even more auspicious. There would only be Griselle, freshly returned from hunting, and his most loyal knights. Everything unfolded as usual, except for one detail.
Which of you has ever heard of the Kingdom of Spur?
None of his men answered, as they were all unaware of the existence of that imaginary country, which annoyed the monarch. She also said she's from the Kingdom of Spur as a joke about him, like, kicking her with his spur. That's a way to, like, kind of get back at him, but not really. So now he thinks that she is from Spur. Hello, Leo. Yes, I am a royal. It is me, Queen Coco. Only refer to me as such.
Come on, this is ridiculous. I browsed through all the volumes I have on hand. He's browsed through the yellow phone book. From the beginning to the end, but nowhere in that country mentioned. How was the horse riding? It didn't happen. It didn't happen today, Boop. That's how it went. They messaged me like this week asking if we could kind of meet up tomorrow instead, as in like the horse, like the instructor. And I didn't see the message until this morning. And so I was like, oh shit, because they accidentally called me. So that's when I saw that who the phone number was and who messaged me. And I was like, oh shit. So I messaged my friend being like, hey, have you left the house yet? Don't leave the house because they want us to come tomorrow instead. Can you do that? And then they were like, yeah, let's do that. So we're going tomorrow. It's going to be tomorrow instead of today. And tomorrow I shall tell y'all how the horse riding went. Queen Coco, destroy your bunnies! Oh my god, maybe I am meant for Griselda, who only likes the suffering of others, as a fellow bunny slayer. The young woman could not help smiling while clearing the noble's plates. Yet I am here, right in front of you. Upon the sovereign's insistence to interrogate all of his subjects, Kiona slowed down her pace, though she would be the last servant still in the banquet hall at this particular moment of lunch. Gathering all of her courage, she raised her head and opened her mouth to intervene. My lord, I think I know the answer. If you promise to trust me, I will help you find the woman you are looking for, and... Griselda curtly interrupted her. Silence, foolish girl. Where would you have found a way to know that? A simpleton like you does not know how to read nor write. Just promise me to put some trust in me, and you will be satisfied. I swear. Be quiet, you nasty prater. Who gave you permission to speak in the presence of your master? My apologies. I will keep quiet if you wish, but I will gladly give all my blood to bring back a bit of happiness in your eyes. The softness in her voice completely eluded the prince, who only became more exasperated by the heiress's solicitude. One more word and I will choke you at once. I was merely worried about you, my lord. Oh god. No, I'm scared. Will you wear your tiara during horse riding for maximum queen aura? Oh my god. I think it would, like, get covered by my helmet. You had it coming, foolish girl. Someone fetch me my horsewhip. Oh no. As Kiona was standing still, frozen on the spot by the horror of the situation, he walked towards her with a sardonic grin. One of the squires present handed the horsewhip over to him. She could only keep her eyes wide open. The man she loved so much, the man with whom she had languorously danced the night before, that same man was at that moment raising his arm to deal the first blow. A crack resounded. The young woman touched her cheek, reddened by the leather, and flinched. The nightmare was starting again, but it was not over yet. I am going to teach you a lesson that you will never forget, scullery maid. For daring to defy your master, you will endure 20 whiplashes. The prince made a show of bravado meant for the people nearby. Come on, let us count together. Without further delay, he firmly grabbed the heiress's arm to prevent her from escaping, and started to lift her clothes to expose her body. She tried to struggle to run away, but the bloody prince's grip was too strong, and she was scared that any self-defense act would backfire. He whispered in her ear, Beware that if you try to bite me or hit me, you will be flogged 50 times instead. 50? She had no choice, no way out. So, amid the general laughter, Griselda hit her with his horsewhip 20 times.
With obvious sadism, he was enjoying her cries and continuously trying to multiply them tenfold. By lashing harder, by lashing faster. The more she screamed, the more the knights who were still sitting down were snickering. Bit by bit, she was becoming unable to process the extreme torment inflicted on her. She still felt that harrowing burns, but its psychological impact was not the same anymore, as if her mind had switched off, as if she was dead inside. Somewhere deep down inside, something had been lost forever. She never again would be able to regain the innocence that had been characteristic of her, the naivety Nahima liked so much. Oh my god. She only vaguely remembered what ensued. She had not been able to hear the end of the countdown. Her ears had sealed themselves at the same time as her soul. She had not resumed her service either. She had left the banquet hall in a deplorable state as soon as the prince had released her, tossing the retainers she was usually working with in the process. She had dashed across the castle without stopping, not even when she had heard her name. She had taken refuge in her attic room, where no one would come fetch her. Alone in the tiny dwelling, she adjusted her disordered clothes and realized at the same time that there were reddish marks on her arms, legs, and back. The horsewhip had marked her body and soul for life. Humiliated, bruised, the young woman could not hold back the flood at the edge of her eyelashes. She burst into tears. Oh, why? She screamed and cried for several long minutes, externalizing her distress as she had never done before. Finally, as the tidal wave was gradually wearing off, she suddenly distinguished a sound nearby. Man, what is she gonna do? Like, there's no way she can, like, get married to him now, but now she's stuck in his palace. Furry little animal, it's me, Berth. May I come in? Unable to respond, Kiona let by a long silence broken by tears. The doors creaking revealed the concerned face of the cook, who was slowly entering the room before sitting next to her. Kill them all! Kill them all? An interesting proposition, actually. Perhaps. We do have a fairy godmother. The only thing we'd have to do is sacrifice Nahima's memories, which we definitely don't want to do. But I'm pretty sure a fairy godmother would do that. You passed me by earlier, and I could clearly see you weren't doing well. I know I've asked you this question yesterday, but did something happen? You can talk to me, you know. I may not be able to do much, but I'm willing to help. Moved by her benevolence, the young Moor carefully looked up in her direction and discreetly sniffed. The prince, yesterday and today, he hit me. What? Oh, donkey skin, what happened exactly? Understanding that her protege would not say any more, Berth let out an alarmed sigh. It's okay. You don't need to tell me the full story if you don't want to. Just know that I'm with you. Oh, thank you. What the hell are we gonna do now? Without a word, the cook took Kiona in her arms and stroked her head, which did a world of good. She found in that display of affection the solace she so badly needed in such a difficult moment. As she was gradually calming down, her mentor spoke. My poor child. I wish I could promise you it won't happen again, but unfortunately, it is not the first time Lord Griselt has acted this way. What do you mean? The prince is regularly subject to uncontrollable fits of anger. It has been going on for years since his childhood. Even then, my master had told me about it. See all your enemies, they're bunnies now. No! How so? The prince frequently lashes out at his retainers at the slightest vexation. He only keeps the image of a young attractive man, because his victims are often too scared to speak about it to anyone. I've seen a girl silently wasting away before, because he was persecuting her, and the very few witnesses were too frightened of suffering the same fate to intervene. The poor girl ended up disfigured. Sounds like a white dude excuse. Why is that held? That's so funny. Why was that held? Not the poor white dudes. Guys, white is a race thing. What the hell? I think it's white dude. Boop. I think it's the fact that you said white dude that they were like, that, we can't say that. That's not allowed. Twitch, that's not... Twitch, not the poor white, not defending the poor white dudes. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh, whatever. They've been persecuted for way too long. We can't do this to them. We can't let them suffer like this. Twitch, what the heck? Anyway, this is like when they were banned saying the word incel. This is like when they were like, you can't use the word incel because heaven forbid you upset the incels. They shoulder the burden of society. They're poor souls. Yeah, no, I mean, I think the uncontrollable just means that in this case, I don't think Bertha is necessarily agreeing with him at all. I think she's just like, no one can stop him. And also he's a prince. It is, ugh. This girl just got whipped to shit. I know, like, but no, heaven forbid the poor white dude gets made fun of. It's unfortunate that had to get to this state, though, for Kiona to, like, you know, realize that he was like that, but it's not really her fault in that case. It's like, you're gonna want to, like, think the best of people, and especially if you've got, like, this kind of delusion that he's trying to save you and there's not many choices that you have. But it is unfortunate that she had to experience that before finding out that, no, he is just like this, and he's the worst. The White Prince. Literally, what the fuck? We're experiencing this in real time. That's crazy. Anyway, Twitch aside, I've seen a girl wasting away. They were too frightened of suffering the same fate to intervene. The poor girl ended up disfigured. Disfigured? He gashed her face, that beast. What happened to the servant after that? I do not know. She has mysteriously disappeared. Some say she jumped off the dungeon, and that her body rests at the bottom of the moat. Others claim she simply ran away and she's now leading a better life in another city. Personally, I'd like to believe she's still alive somewhere, and she is okay. Why did you not say anything? Because you wouldn't have listened to me. I tried to get you to understand it was pointless to idolize the prince. That's all I could do at the time. I mean, yeah. I mean, she did tell you, to an extent, to, like, you know, not bother with him. But also, Fleur also told you this. So I think it would have taken actually seeing it to understand. Doesn't mean it's your fault. Quite the contrary. Exactly. Regardless, it's like, no one should have to experience that. And it's not really something where it's like, oh, you should have to go through it before you understand it. Like, you know, it's like, you don't expect someone to be that terrible. Nothing good will ever come out of the feelings you harbor for him. It's not a man worthy of your love donkey skin. After some comforting words, Bertha expressly asked the young woman to rest as she was leaving the room. Left alone, Kiona was in full mental confusion. She had wanted to believe the misadventure with the spur was just a mishap, yet the horsewhip incident had finished shaking her beliefs. Was Grizel the man she thought she knew? How could he present her both his most endearing face and his most odious one? The argument she had with Fleur came back to her. The farmer revealed the mistreatments her family had endured from the sovereign, and she had denied the whole thing. A man as kind as Prince Griselda would never do such a heinous thing. Would you dare say I'm lying? Fleur. If Bertha was speaking the truth, then it was very likely that Fleur's account was trustworthy as well. Conceding that would amount to confess that she had been in the wrong, that she had been mistaken about Griselda from the very beginning. Cannot be. My judgment could not possibly have been impaired by some artifice. Although she was scared to discover that the man she loved acted like a monster, Kiona was still clinging to a lost glimmer of hope. She needed to be sure. Oh no. Thus, she swiftly cleaned herself. Why my stomach is rumbling so much? That is such an awkward time to do that. Attired herself with a dress the color of the moon, and went to the second ball looking like a king's daughter. That's such a pretty outfit. Just like the night before, her entry caused quite a stir. The guests admire her rich garments. Rule of 3, it's true. The prince came to meet her, delighted to see her again. Ah, mademoiselle, you deceived me last night. I beg of you. Tell me what country you're from. I am from the kingdom of Horsewhip. Completely flies over his head. You have my gratitude, for I'm hoping to ask for your hand in marriage. In the meantime, I pray you will accept this dance. Cradled by the tender arms of Griselda, Kiona felt her anger leaving her, little by little. No! Hold on to the anger, Kiona. The magic of that moment was too strong, and she had to deploy a wealth of energy to keep a cool head and finally ask the questions that were gnawing at her. My lord, I would like to learn more about you and your way of governing. How are you reigning over your subjects? What an odd question. I suppose it depends on the subjects. I've my heart set on ruling through admiration among my closest vassals. All the noble men and noble women have envy my way of life and what I own. I need to embody perfection and force them to surpass themselves in the hope of achieving something comparable one day. Okay, well, I feel like that's quite illuminating on its own. The answer will always be because of a fairy tale. It does make me think of like how abusive relationships work though, where you see them at their best and where they're kind to you and you just want to kind of like, you know, you want to cling to that aspect of them and you forget the awful things that they've done. My, this is truly an interesting way of governing. What about your other vassals then? The farmers, the retainers, and the artisans, for instance? His face! The young man pouted and briefly shrugged. I hardly concern myself with what the masses think of me. I confine myself to maintaining order, as any good king has a duty to do. Does this mean that you are willing to resort to physical abuse and torture, if necessary? To maintain order, naturally. Society has assigned roles to us, positions. Everything must be in its proper place. As king, it is my duty to sit on the throne and live the desirable life of luxury. Likewise, peasants are born to serve me, and they ought not to rebel. A servant who would not know her place would call my status into question, needs to be punished. The heiress shuddered from the mention. Griselda was clearly making reference to what had happened during lunch, but did not seem to show any remorse. Worse still, it appeared natural to him. He thought he was well within his rights. I see. Uneasy, the young Moor progressively became dead silent. He only responded to Griselda's courtly speech with weak smiles, and was already feeling out of place. Bye! Suffocating, she resolved to leave the ball prematurely. Once the dance was over, she disappeared so quickly again that the prince could not figure out where she had gone. Fiona returned to her bedroom in a miserable mood. Whoa! Oops. I hit the backspace button. Deep down inside, the princess had hoped that Griselda would have refuted, that he would have sworn he had never laid hands on his servants. But on the contrary, he had admitted. I feel like that would have been even worse, though, considering he did. He had revealed to her that he had no problem in using violence against those who have the audacity not to know their place, without the shadow of a doubt. Paradoxically, she should not have seen anything wrong with that. After all, she had been raised with similar ideas, with the certainty that servants were merely objects, that it was possible to treat them as they see fit. She had gone through the looking glass, she'd experienced the life of a retainer, and above all else, she had been beaten up. How could she still have faith in a sovereign so choleric and violent? What guarantee could she have that such violence could not turn against her?
that he would not try to beat her once she would be his queen. If his subjects were merely objects that he could rid himself of at leisure, was he not going to treat his wife the same? Would whiplashes become her daily reality? It was with that visceral anguish in her stomach that Kiona laboriously fell asleep. Her dreams were infected, offering dreadful visions of the abuse her new husband might be ready to inflict on her. Oh no. The following day, she was on everyone's lips. In the common room, in the corridors, in the kitchens, in the courtyard, everywhere the retainers were wondering about the mysterious maiden who neither wanted to say where she came from, nor who she was. However, contrary to the day before, the princess did not get any pride out of it. She stared at passerbys with apathy and politely declined to join her comrades. She was feeling empty, unable to play a role. Remarks were not long in coming. Say, Donkey Skin doesn't look good today. Maybe she's put off the fact that Grisel's expressing interest for a princess. She's always had a thing for him. I can understand. I'm sure some girls would love to be in a stranger's place as we're speaking. Fiona gave a sarcastic smile. She felt as if she was dying inside, and at the same time, she wanted to roar with laughter. Her mind was writhing in despair. They only knew. It believed to be the heroine of the story had fancied herself so much that way that she was only now realizing the unpleasant truth. She was not the main character, but a mere spectator of something that was beyond her and that she had naively thought she could control. Then the young woman met Berth coming out the other way. Hello, Donkey Skin. I hope you've managed to regain some of your composure since last night. Fiona quivered before realizing the cook was simply mentioning the discussion they had in the attic room. I know that I've told you things you certainly didn't want to hear, but I think it was important for you to know. I do not hold a grudge against you. Quite the opposite. You have always been considerate with me, Berth, and for that I am grateful. Oh, come on, don't mention it. Don't act as if it's the last time we'll see each other. Unless, are you planning to leave? I must confess I do not know what I should do. Should I give up? Well, I unfortunately cannot make that decision for you. If you need a piece of advice, I would tell you to put an ultimatum in place. An ultimatum? The ultimatum? Draw an impossible line in your heart of hearts. That line reflects what you would not want to happen in any circumstances, the worst possible scenario. If Griselde were to cross that line, you know what you ought to do. This seems to be good advice. I will follow it. You're welcome. Thank you, Berth, for everything you have done for me. Oh, there you go again. I really want to tell you these things, and I am afraid of never having another opportunity again. As a result, I prefer to pour my heart out now. What a change from when we first came in here and we were like, one day we shall lord over you, Berth, and you will be my retainer. You know, not in like, I don't think she meant it in like a bad way, but I think she was just very arrogant about it. Oh, sweetheart. The woman held her protege in her arms with tears in her eyes. Know that I'm proud that you've been my assistant, and I'm very happy to have met you, so don't do anything stupid, okay? I will do my best. As the cook's back was moving away, the princess had a clear impression that this day would be her last, and she was reaching a turning point. Her actions would determine her fate, she was sure of it. Today, she would be a queen or a beggar. Upon taking a quick look between the pillars, Kiona glimpsed the prince's group parked in the courtyard. What if this was her last chance? Oh no. I'm scared. The ultimatum is to use your fairy godmother to create a being who can bring life to the desert. However, it will cost you your memory. Also, the being will be infused with every personality of every person it was and will infuse them with negative emotions to wake it up. Anyway, I lost my train of thought. What were we talking about? Do not bring Pluto into this. I have just barely recovered my tears from that. Oh my god. Don't do this to me. Don't do this to me. I cannot think about that. Oh my god. Oh my god.
I'm really worried. I feel like we're gonna make a choice that I feel like this is the choice that's gonna lead to our death. And we're gonna have to go all the way back. But I feel like it was inevitable because I did not pick a specific route, and now we're going to be doomed. Upon taking a quick look between the pillars, we glimpse a... Okay. Determined, she ran across the castle in order to intercept him before he went hunting. She had to make him understand her situation. She had to reveal her identity. If she managed to obtain an apology from him, she would be ready to forgive everything. The young woman rushed outside just as her departure was being sounded. Griselda was turning his back on her. He had to notice her presence, so she shouted as loudly as she could. Your Majesty, wait! Oh, I'm scared. The knight scornfully looked at her as the prince was making his horse trot in her direction. The servant from last time. What does she want this time? Without losing her countenance, the heiress continued. Majesty, there is something I must confess to you before you leave. Something of the utmost importance. Oh my god. She didn't have time to tell him that she was a girl from the ball because the Lord's intimidating shadow was looming over her. Griselda cut her short. You little pest. Do you ever know when to stop? Stop bothering me at once, or I will no longer be responsible for my actions. The young man threatened her with the bridle he was holding in his hand and ordered his group to follow him. All went away, while mocking her, and Kiona could only look down at her clenched fist. The vicious horse-kicking scene. Not another one. There she had it, the much-dreaded confirmation. The prince's behavior was not an error. He would never listen to her, under her scullery-maid disguise. The thought should have saddened her, but surprisingly, it had a very different effect. The young Moor felt extremely angry. Yes, girl, dig into the anger. It's not good. Dig into the anger. Repeatedly affected in her pride as a princess, she could not bear any more humiliation. Enraged, she swore that this time she would go to the ball, not to impress Griselda and his guest, but to take revenge. She would make him pay for the abuse he had inflicted on her. She would force him to apologize. Points with potential love interest only decide who you're ending with, not if you're going to die in 5 minutes. For the last time, Kiona got ready and put on the dress, the color of the sun. She hurried and made her entrance shortly after. I love the color of that dress the most, but I'm very biased. Y'all know I like orange. Oh my god. I am excited and scared. Oops. Zoom back in. The crowd was heaping praises on the brilliance of her clothing, whose splendor was unrivaled. Hey, fuck you. Takes a shit on the floor. Oh my god. Can you imagine? I wish. That would be amazing. I don't know if she'd end up I don't know if she'd be in a great position though if she did that. Naturally, Prince Griselda felt a great eagerness to marry her. He ardently desired to be highly praised in everything he was doing, and because of everything he was owning. So the promise of adding an outstanding woman to his hunting trophies was quite titillating to him, all the more so because she seemed to be continuously shying away from his advances. The game of cat and mouse was stimulating his predatory nature, and reminded him of a furtive doe that he would hunt down with his arrows until he could slaughter it. Oh my god. You know he's evil because they didn't draw him hot. It's funny because, like, I think if he were like a nice character, I would have thought, oh, he looks so sweet. But I think it's a fact that he's such a terrible man that I'm like, oh, like his expressions just make him 10 times worse. And, you know. My goodness. I don't think I've seen that in any fairy tale. That would be quite a twist. I'm surprised not a single fairy tale has had a shitting in the bowl scene. Night, it was out of the question for her to take flight. She would be his. Oh boy. Thus, the prince came to meet her. Here you are at last, mademoiselle. How late you are tonight. But tell me, why did you deceive me? Why did you suddenly run away? My Apologies, Your Majesty, but I cannot do otherwise. Why would you not tell me what kingdom you are truly from? I am from the kingdom of Bridal. Should I believe you? You have deceived me twice already. You never even asked her for follow-up questions. Ugh, once more he invited her to dance. However, without her knowledge, he ensured that the dance would last a very long time. When it was over, Kiona wanted to leave once again. He held the young woman back, immobilizing her on the spot. Easy now, mademoiselle. Where do you think you're going? The princess tried to extricate herself, but he was grabbing her hand so tightly it was hurting her. Griselda ordered the musicians to stop playing and requested that all the guests would watch him. They gathered around the lovers, making any escape impossible. Fiona resigned herself, ready to face the moment of truth. He didn't do the traditional screening process when attempting to court someone. ID, SSN, credit score. Please accept, mademoiselle, the ring as a token of my love. The crowd let out a squeal of delight. All eyes were on them. Do you love me, my dear prince? If I love you more than my blood, and I am willing to cherish you for the rest of my life if you consent to become my fiancé. And yet you have rejected me many times before. You even went as far as to beat me. Me? Beat you? Yes. You first showered me with blows with your spur, and then you struck me with the horsewhip you were holding in your hand, and finally, you threatened me with your bridle. I did nothing of the kind. Ooh. Triumphant, she retorted. And yet you did, my lord. I have been working in your service as a goose herder in order to get closer to you. It is actually me you have beaten when I had the appearance of that scullery maid you disliked so much. Oh, so you were disguised as a scatterbrain in order not to arouse my suspicion. I must now admit that you are her spitting image. Very well, mademoiselle, you managed to fool me. The young woman's face crumpled. She had only gone to the ball so she could extract a proper apology from Griselda, but he seemed awfully nonchalant. Once the denial had stopped, he did not even attempt to acknowledge his guilt, or get to his knees. No, he was merely shrugging in front of her, smiling as if he could not care less about her feelings. That could have been a lot worse of an excuse. He was just like, well, just how silly of you to have done that. Well, I now notice you, so. In a state of stupefaction, she felt all her mental defenses give away without warning. Jubilating, the prince presented the ring he wished to give her again with a theatrical gesture. Mademoiselle, I love you and I want to propose to you at once. Would you accept to become one with my destiny? The guests held their breath, waiting her answer. Fiona could not decline such an offer, and she knew it. Besides, she had continually dreamed about this magical moment. She had been working hard to this end, had endured so many hardships, all in the interest of becoming queen at last. Marrying Griselda, a wealthy, powerful, and good-looking man, was the accomplishment of her deepest wish. She simply needed to say yes for a long exile to come to an end, to obtain that happy ending she had been yearning for. Yet she could not do it. Her lips remained sealed together. Oh, his face. Slap him! Worse still, she was petrified, unable to even move. Something in her seemed to be revolting. As his long silence was challenging his patience, the prince did not intend to leave her any choice and came nearer with a sickly sweet smile that looked more akin to a sinister grimace because it was dripping with duplicity. Suddenly, he raised his hand to stroke her cheek, and her world turned upside down. The young woman remained stunned, saw the hand, without understanding the sovereign's intents. Immediately, recollections of the beatings she had received flashed by in her mind. Images, noises, feelings, as if she were reliving those painful instances. Griselda's malevolent laugh, his eyes glowing like those of a demon as he was whipping her. Pain when the leather strap hit her scorching skin, her own screams, her unanswered pleas, the mortification of having been displayed as entertainment in plain view. Everything was coming back at once, like a stake planted into her heart. The traumatic memory was overwhelming her senses. She was losing all of her bearings. Neither time nor space existed. There was only a jumble of emotions, shapeless, incomprehensible. Kyona's heart was pounding because of the panic spreading to her. Thus, in the chaos, she perceived the man who was coming toward her as a threat. Terrorized, she unconsciously took a step back at the very moment the hand was about to touch her. It was merely a survival mechanism, a natural response to the abuse she had endured over the last few days. Yet that unfortunate action proved fatal to her. The prince was not accustomed to be challenged in the slightest. He took the rejection very badly. The blow dealt to his pride was all the more terrible as his own guest turned against him by immediately starting to giggle behind his back. Seeing the poor girl's face, she looks disgusted at the mere idea of wedding him. Did she not say he had hit her? That's not proper conduct to have when courting a lady. Not that. That's not proper conduct to have. When courting a lady, she must see the sovereign as he really is, conceited and abusive. Griselda has always been an irascible man. It's not very surprising he would scare off the princesses. At this pace, he's never gonna get married. You don't beat your wife before I know, that's how that came out. Like, what the fuck? He's not the first one to turn him down. This one is quite brave. She's not even promising to think about it. Neither is she making excuses to avoid having accept. So it's not that he was turning other women down. They were turning him down. Oh my god, incredible. That makes so much sense. She's physically pushing him away. The noble's chattering struck the final blow to the prince's leniency. Belittled in front of his own subjects, rejected by a woman, wounded in his enormous ego, he exploded. His friendly look turned into an expression of vile resentment, suddenly making him appear very ugly. So that's what I mean. Like, he could have looked so, normal, but his expression just makes him look so, disgusting. Flying into a dark rage, he began to insult the poor girl, who did not know how to react. Miscreant, you have the audacity to refuse your lord's proposal? I am doing you the great honor of taking you as my spouse. You, a beggar, a scullery maid, with a treacherous tongue, and you still dare make light of me? This is not what I wanted. Silence, foolish girl. So be it. You will be severely punished for your insolence. Guards, I order you take her to prison. She will be crucified at daybreak! Lord have mercy. What? May your punishment serve as example to all the women in the kingdom. Let them know that from now on, they will have to submit to my will, under the penalty of execution. Jesus Christ. No girl, whether baroness, duchess, a cook, or a scullery maid, has the right to deny me her body. Oh no. Okay, well that's definitely an end, not a nice end. Henchmen burst in the ballroom, stripped her of her rich attires, and dragged her by the arms across the castle. Lastly, she was unceremoniously thrown into the dungeon. I would say, like, what a dramatic reaction. However, he is a prince. And princes in that era, well, even now, actually, what am I saying? Have always been the worst. I don't think there's really been many nice royalty. Yandere putting you in a cage, getting crucified by an abusive... This is not the same as Toma. Toma was different. Toma was different. It's not the same. Within those damp and cold walls, she implored the king to grant her his pardon, again and again in vain. When the executioner came to pick her up at the crack of dawn, she had hardly slept and was already looking weakened and pitiable. Crucifixion, fun fact! Doesn't actually bleed you out. It's a mean of suffocation. You're meant to die slowly. Suffocation? How do you suffocate? Yikes. Ugh. Yikes. A huge crowd had rushed at the city's gates to attend her execution. The citizens were yelling, agitated. Some questions emerged. What is her crime? Infidelity? Murder? Didn't you hear the news? She refused to marry the prince. That's it. Griselda's lost his mind. Wretched, Kiona let herself be led to the gallows without putting up much resistance. Already spoiling the death scene. Boo. She was physically and mentally broken, so much so she barely reacted upon hearing her name. Donkey skin! As she was turning her head, the young woman glimpsed Berth's aghast eyes for a few seconds. Her mouth wide open, stunned, she was staring at her without understanding. Oh, she was quickly lost in the melee. The criminal was laid on a wooden beam as the executioner nailed her 2 wrists. An inhuman scream ripped through the air. Oh, why have we not called a fairy godmother yet? Then hoisted off the ground, her torturers made her bend her knees and finally hammered the last in her feet. They tie a rope around your neck and you're expected to raise your head enough to breathe, but you can't keep yourself raised for very long. Oh no. I didn't know that. That's awful. I mean, not that any part of a crucifixion is nice. 2 trails of blood flowed from her hands. The ordeal had begun. The crowd eventually scattered, leaving Kiona to her sad fate. I hate torture scenes. But it was explained at the start of the game, so I should have expected it. The crowd eventually scattered, leaving Kiona to her sad fate. The wounds caused by the stakes inflicted terrible suffering on her each time she was moving. And yet she had to. In fact, if she were to leave her body weight as it is, very quickly her ribcage would start to get stuck and she would feel the first signs of asphyxia. Consequently, she had to concentrate all her strength on lifting up her body from a few centimeters at regular intervals, which allowed her to breathe at the cost of a Herculean effort. The more time passed, the weaker she felt because of the bleeding, the acute pain, and the heat making this back and forth more and more exhausting. With dry lips, the young woman looked at the sky, tears still rolling in her eyes. Prince had left her a long time ago, satisfied by his stunt. Oh my god, the looking up at the sky reminded me that, like, aren't we still the person looking at the story and trying to work out if there's anything we remember from our past life? Oh my god, Liz! What the fuck? What the fuck are you showing me? I guess I warmed you up to it. Do you think this feels better than waking up in a coffin? I don't know. I don't know what would be worse. This feels like excruciating. But then being in a coffin is terrifying. And then drowning is also terrifying. I don't know, man. Drowning is kind of a mix of both. It's excruciating and terrifying. The prince had left a long time ago, satisfied by the stunt. She'd hoped that he would have changed his mind out of mercy, that he would have interrupted the executioner before he had hammered the first nail. She believed that her repentance would have softened his heart, and was only realizing now it was impossible to melt a heart of ice like his. Let yourself die! Oh my god, you really can just, like, experience the worst. Half choked, Kiona summoned her godmother. Medea, please. The fairy's voice echoed as an orb of light was appearing right before her eyes. It hurts so much. I cannot take it anymore. Incels be like, well, she deserved it. That was a dumb thing to do. Boop, you can't say that. Twitch will get so mad. Hang in there, child. No. No. That was a dumb thing to do. No, you don't want to invoke the rage of Twitch.
One streamer reacted that way once? Oh no. Oh no. White dudes, white dudes. You got the pause. It's because I'm like, that's such a dumb thing. That's such a dumb thing to block. It's like... Oh my god. Alright. I kind of, like... Will I admit that some of the things she's done in this route have been not the smartest to do? Yes. However, does she deserve any of this from that? No. No one deserves anything like that. No matter what you do, this is never something you deserve. Abuse and anything of the like, it's not a consequence of your actions. It is a consequence of someone else reacting in a way that they shouldn't react. Abuse is never okay, no matter how much someone says that you've provoked it or done anything to warrant it. It's never warranted. And that is something that, like, I feel, you know, gets lost in translation a lot of the time with not even just stories like this, but real life incidents. And, you know, there are many instances of someone like having, you know, provoked something or said something that will piss off someone else. However, no one should ever react in that kind of way. It just kind of sucks that only the player retains a lesson and using the fairy takes away memory. So I wonder if she actually takes anything from this. No, she doesn't take away the memory. She remembers everything that happens. Which is why she keeps going back to what happened with Fleur. Fiona's dumb, but come on, you don't deserve to be crucified for speaking up. Exactly. And even then, like, even with all of that said, her biggest thing that really upset him was backing away when he reached out to her. After she was terrified of getting, you know, slapped by him because, you know, the last thing that she'd endured was him literally flogging her. So it's like, even in that instance, it was like the only thing that she'd done was back away out of fear as a reaction. And it was the noble's comments that really, like, upset him. So I think he's always been like that. We know that. He's been like that from the start. We've just never seen that side of him until, like, this. I also get crucified for speaking up. Poor Boop. Poor Boop just wants to speak up. And gets crucified online. Yeah, it's a tricky situation because, like, I do get that people will kind of see it as like oh, but you know, she did this and this and it was really dumb, but ultimately it is one of those things where no matter what people think, this is just something that's never okay. It's never okay, no matter what. And unfortunately, this is an idea that is perpetuated in real life and in all situations, and it's annoying because I deal with this quite often at work. And, you know, I think stories like this need to be made because people need to see that this is not fiction. This is not just a fairy tale. This is stuff that people endure in real life. Not a crucifixion, maybe, nowadays, although that's still something that happens in other parts of the world. However, this kind of reaction, this kind of, like, over-the-top reaction to, like, a little thing is something that people will do, you know? And this is real life, and it sucks. And people don't always take your side in that situation. In this specific case, I think the guy said she kind of deserved the beating because she spoke when Grizel told her not to. I was taken aback. Oh my god. What the fuck? Yikes. See... Yikes. Oh my god. That's not good. I'm trying really hard to kind of, like, put myself in that headspace of, like, yes, he told her that he was going to do that if she spoke up. However, once again, never okay. Even if the abuser tells you not to do something because they'll react in that way, it's never okay. That's why people end up walking on eggshells in these relationships, you know? I thought you were referring to Twitch drama, but no, you were referring to actual reaction to the story moment. That's crazy. I seem to really hate her character after she was mean to Fleur and the peasants. Oh my god. And the thing is, like, we've said that Kiona is not a perfect character, you know? She's really flawed. She's really arrogant. And she doesn't treat people in the best way all the time. However, she's also, like, you know, like, she's not... there's no such thing as, like, a bad person. And there's just, like, someone who's more likely to make a lot of bad choices. And she's grown up in this kind of environment where she is brought up with this mentality, you know? And she regrets her actions to Fleur. Like, she's really confused by what happened with Fleur. And we've seen that. He identifies with the unwashed, uninformed masses who need to be told how to do everything. It's crazy. It's like, I think that kind of annoys me, that there are people who will react in that way, even given all of, you know, the nuances that you're being given. Like, with, it's kind of why you end up with so many stories where they have to spell out the fact that someone is, like, evil and awful, and this person did nothing to deserve, like, this kind of, you know, abuse or whatever. You know, why you have to make a story like that for people to kind of empathize, when in fact most victims are not perfect people, you know? Most victims are not gonna be like these incredible saints who have never done any wrong or whatever. You know, they're gonna be people who are maybe in some ways similar to Kiona, who have said things that are not great, who have, like, done things that are not great, but that never means that you deserve anything like this, you know? Or even, like, other kinds of abuse. But yeah, there's a lot of people that do have that kind of mentality, and it's annoying. It's not good. That sets me how often I'm reminded the nuance in this lost on people. I know. And it's like, I really love stories like this where we get a character that is flawed in that kind of way, because it's realistic. This is how people actually are, you know? I can't hate Kiona because Kiona is like, you know, I don't think in her way. However, there are a lot of things that she does and I'm like, I get it, you know? I get it considering, like, where she's come from and all of that. And again, she regrets how she acted with Fleur, you know? She regrets how she acted with the peasants. And even with the things that she said about Birth, like, she still really respects Birth in that kind of way. I goofed how I was losing empathy for her because of Richie Rich comments. I mean, yeah, which is also fair. Like, you can still dislike her in that regard. You can have, like, an annoyance towards her, especially for being, like, a rich person, you know? Like, no one has to love the rich. That being said, rich people get abused too, you know? And we had this conversation before, that, like, the rich get abused too. And there is often this idea that because they're rich, they don't suffer through anything. But a lot of women in like, rich households suffer through a lot, and they can't speak up because they, you know, will lose everything, or they're in a situation where they have no power and all of that, despite being rich. And you have to have that level of empathy towards that situation too. Obviously, you don't have to, like, care about every single rich person in existence, but, like, in a story like this, where you do have, like, this character who's going through all of this stuff, you can put aside that kind of dislike for, you know, her being rich and all of that stuff, for everything else going on, you know? But it's a whole other thing to be like, she deserved it, you know? Like, that's crazy! Maybe I'm a softie, but I wouldn't have crucified her in this situation. Thanks, Baton. Whoa! Oh my god. This is a... Dude, this was an intense chapter. Oh my god. Even more so than the drowning and the buried alive, which were awful, by the way. This is, like, just horrendous. And I'm not saying that in, like, a how could you do this and show this to us, but, like, I do like that you've, like, really, you know, illuminated this stuff. It's just because it's so close to, like, what I do at work that I'm very much like, you know, it hits kind of close. Guess what? It's classic narrative device used in this time to depict people as seeing things through a lens of privilege and then having it be taken away and seeing the world on a greater scope and understanding. Yeah, it's like you'll often see that with, like, the roles and all of that stuff. But I'll give you a Blue Peter badge for that.
a goof that for no one but me, probably. Oh my god, Blue Peter! I haven't seen Blue Peter in so long. Also, guys, we're gonna have to take a little break. I've got an order and it's coming. I just want to get out of here. It hurts, I can't take it anymore.
Do you wish to be saved?
Yes, Godmother. I beg of you, make it so that I can go back in time to undo my mistakes.
Very well, Princess.
Under the haggard eyes of the girl condemned to death, a blinding light appeared as she was slowly losing consciousness. A frail thought arose in her mind just before darkness struck her.
Is it already too late?
Crucified. Jeez. Kiona was drifting unconscious in an ocean of darkness at the border between life and death. At the instigation of the fairy, she had rewinded by itself, or time had rewinded by itself. The world had reverted to that fateful moment when everything had turned upside down. The surge of time was about to turn its own tide. The dam would not hold much longer. Thus opening the invisible doors, a new cycle could begin, a new choice. Oh my god, we're back! The princess brutally regained consciousness on her bed, gasping for air. What the hell else are we gonna do? We can't even, like... The big plan was to marry the prince after escaping. She had the unpleasant sensation that her vital energy had leapt in a body which had stayed inert for too long, the ill-conceived body of a doll. With bulging eyes, her heart still pounding from the dread, she remained perfectly motionless for a handful of minutes, each more interminable than the last. Memories were flowing back to her, feelings too. Despite being flat on her back, Kiona felt as though she was still nailed above the ground, unable to move. The gap between what her eyes could see, the peaceful and muted atmosphere of her own bedroom, and what was happening in her mind, the dazzling sun, the dry air entering her lungs, and the incredulous expression of birth, was so wide that she remained plunged in total confusion for a long time. I think the saddest part for me is that of all the good people she's met, she'll never really get to see them again, or not in the same way. Like birth! The big 2000 IQ play is accept it, either embarrass him at the altar or get him killed in some gruesome cathartic way. Like accept it and then poison him and kill him off and then become the queen. But on your own. When she was able to dispel the hallucination and regain control of her body, she finally stood up, as quiet as a statue. It had now become a certainty. She had been brought back from the dead. During her previous time jumps, she had harbored the secret hope that her clouded memories were nothing more than dark dreams, and Nahima had encouraged her in that direction. She only now realized her mistakes. Everything was far too real. The pain, the fire that was inhabiting her whole body, like a remainder of that journey into the heart of hell. The anger that was rising within her, her mouth dried up by those long hours spent on display, spent rotting away, bleeding to death. The princess came to a conclusion as she was massaging her wrists, still aching from the nails the executioner had hammered into her flesh. Like, it would have been nice if she actually did forget all of this, but unfortunately, she's carrying all of that with her. This was no dream. She had definitely died. What was more, it had happened for the third time. She clenched her fists. Her eyes met those of her servant, still positioned in a corner of the room. She was certainly worrying about her mood. Nahima! Did Kiona explain her torment? Her friend would never believe her. She had not believed her the first time. And even if she had faith in her account, what could she even do to help? It's fine, you can still just, like, it's even just having a voice, having someone to talk to, whether they can do something or not. Her retainer could not accompany her on her journey. This was her story, her trial. She had to overcome it alone. Besides, if she knew what the princess had lived through, she would without a doubt feel a great sadness. It would have been cruel to provoke her anxiety at the very moment she needed to appease her, to tell her she was going to be okay in her absence. It would be better to leave her out of everything, to keep her ignorant. She could not understand. No, Nahima could not understand. That far back? Yup. You have been staring at me for a little while, Princess. Is there something I can do for you? It is nothing, Nahima. I am simply feeling tired. Still under the yoke of what she has just experienced, yet keen to reassure her friend, Fiona gave a terribly fake and forced smile. Could you leave me a moment alone, a few minutes? I have difficulty concentrating. The young Moor was not fooled, but still pretended to believe her, thinking she simply needed solitude. Most certainly. Seeing as it is quite late, I cannot enter and exit my room without making the other servants panic. I'll wait for you in the library. It is a safe place. Oh, this is going very differently than before. Come see me there once you have found a plan or if you need me. Understood. See you in a bit, Nahima. See you later, Princess. To avoid showing her tormented face, Fiona sat down at her dressing table while the servant was disappearing into the corridors. She did turn around when the door slammed, but only to abundantly sigh. She mumbled as she was brushing her hair absent-mindedly. I thought that I only needed to approach Griselda to become queen, but I was wrong. I could never marry such a man. I unnecessarily made Fleur suffer, even though she was trying to warn me, just like Birth, incidentally. I was wrong. Oh, she's angry. Her fingers suddenly stopped moving. She furiously dropped the hairbrush. He hurt me. He humiliated me. And he sentenced me to death. And for that, I will never forgive him. This is starting up like one of my villainous webtoons. I'm sorry, I keep bringing it up, but it really feels like that. Like when the love interest kills the main character and she goes back in time and she's like seething. This is what it feels like. I swear before God I will make him pay. As soon as I will be queen, I will ask my husband to wage war against King Griselda, and we will take possession of his lands. We will see whether he can keep his self-satisfied smile once I have personally dethroned him. Highly wrathful, the princess had great difficulty maintaining her composure and focus, yet she still had to find a way to escape as she was now back to her starting point. Considering that walking was the best way to take her mind off of those things, she began a little night stroll. Her steps led her to the palace garden first. At this time, nobody was around. There were only particles floating in the fresh evening breeze. Soothed, the princess enjoyed the tranquility of the small haven of peace and dipped her fingers in the fountain's water while she was mentally going over her previous strategy. No, wage war yourself! She's got no power at the moment. I don't think she's likely to have power. So, the way the game has worked so far, and I guess kind of like how things worked in this time period was, you know, you could marry into power, but you wouldn't really necessarily have control either way as a queen. Her mother did have control though, but that was only because her dad is like useless. Her mother had all the control in that situation, and she married a prince who was like the last in his lineage, like, you know, very unimportant for the most part, so that's why no one really cared about him. And everyone looked to her for everything. Fleeing with a donkey skin as a disguise had allowed her to reach the closest monarch, but her legs could hardly carry her elsewhere. Oh, she did run! Going beyond Griselda's lands would exhaust her and jeopardize her chances of success. Thus, she needed a solution. Oh, she's not gone anywhere yet. Okay. Travel much farther than the previous time and reach a kingdom where a more merciful lord would likely take her in. Finding a way to travel was consequently her new goal. Lost in her own thoughts, the young Moor left the garden without noticing two red eyes that were gleaming in the shade of the foliage. The fuck does that mean? As she was coincidentally passing before a lit hallway, Fiona could not suppress a certain curiosity. God seemed to be specifically patrolling around the throne room, even though her father had withdrawn into his apartments long ago. What could they be protecting?
While ensuring that the sentries were not in the vicinity anymore, she took a look inside the room. Not far from the throne, an unusual object was drawing all the attention. It was an enormous statue supposed to depict a bull. Shaped in the purest gold, the animal was shining brightly. The young woman remembered it was a present her father intended to give the Lord, the son of a friend who had once saved him from certain evil. Hide inside! Ooh! The whole castle had been eagerly waiting for the golden bull's arrival, before the news of her marriage played havoc with everyone's mind. The precious object was very likely delivered to the king by a great goldsmith. No doubt he would send it to his friend soon. Hide inside! But actually, rumor had it that this palace was located several leagues away, and that an escort would be needed in order to ensure the golden bull would not be stolen by some highwaymen. Fearing that one of the guards would come back, Fiona took advantage of the vegetation to sneak into her room without being seen. Her night stroll had been quite instructive. I had completely forgotten about that gift my father was preparing. What a shame that it is not possible for me to hide in that statue. If what they say is true, the monarch it is intended for is living far enough that nobody would think of looking for me there. And if that man is good, he will not hesitate to protect me. The princess froze in a pensive posture. If only I could slip inside that escort one way or another. The opportunity was too good. She could not help wanting to seize it. Just like a Trojan horse, the golden bull would allow her to retain freedom. She was sure of it. For that reason, she decided to quickly wash her face in order to make herself presentable, in anticipation of the trip to come. Pretend to be a guard, maybe? I don't know if that would work, though. Because we would be so noticeable, wouldn't we? She had yet to pick up her friend, who was... Oh, but she could go invisible! And hide with the statue, who was probably still waiting for her in the library. Resist the temptation? No, we're gonna go see Nahima. What, girl? Come on. Or maybe this is a good place to stop, actually. I think this might be a good place to stop, considering we've had a very full day. And I still need to do the rest of the other videos and get them out. Yeah, before a new arc, I think. Because we're now in the in-between stage, and I feel like we're going to set up a whole new set of events. So this is a good place to stop. I know, it's already Sunday! Well, oh wait, it's Sunday for you. Nope, it's still Saturday for me. But soon. Oh my god, and then I can go horse riding tomorrow! Woo! So excited. The salty run back is real. The what? The what? Oh, I'm so hungry. My stomach was growling so many times. Horse girl arc. Yes. Guys, soon. Barbie Pegasus. Okay? Barbie Magic of Pegasus. Soon. And then we can really enter our horse girl arc. I was going to do that with Cerise, though, so I need to find a day that works for us both, which will likely be a Friday. Likely then. Alright, tomorrow, I'm going to be playing a indie horror game with Ollie. He's found it, and I don't know what it is, but it's apparently very creepy. So, woo!